Ancient monuments around the world, from majestic temples to humble ruins, raise numerous questions about the past. Some are in plain sight, others are hidden beneath the earth, and still others may never have been discovered. For instance, in the early 20th century, archaeologists unearthed abandoned tombs containing artifacts that were unknown to modern science. The precision of stonework in these structures is astonishing. Sometimes, such technologies seem inexplicable. This leads one to wonder if ancient people possessed tools that we have not recognized, even though we assumed they did not exist. From Siberia to Egypt, mysterious traces of the past compel us to rethink our notions of civilizations that may have been ahead of their time. Structures with astronomical alignments and technologies, such as irrigation systems, demonstrate that ancient societies were far more advanced than we previously thought. The Maya civilization, which thrived in the territories of present-day Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras, achieved remarkable successes in various fields, beginning in the 3rd century AD. The Maya built grand cities with magnificent temples and pyramids that served as centers of religious and cultural life. For instance, in cities like Tikal and Palenque, archaeologists discovered massive stone structures, including the famous Pyramid of the Inscriptions, which stands at approximately 32 meters tall and was constructed with astronomical precision. These pyramids were not merely places of worship. They were built with mathematical accuracy to track changes in solar and lunar cycles. Additionally, the Maya developed a complex writing system consisting of more than 800 hieroglyphs, allowing them to record their history and astronomical observations. Notably, the Maya calendar was one of the most accurate in the ancient world. With their solar calendar consisting of 365 days and employing complex mathematical calculations to predict eclipses and other astronomical events. According to archaeologists, by the 2nd millennium, the Maya were already using the concept of zero, placing them on par with other outstanding civilizations like the Indian. At the height of their development, around the 8th century, the Maya population numbered over 10 million, and their cities were connected by a complex network of roads, indicating a high level of organization and trade. Some researchers, such as David Stewart, point out that the Maya not only excelled in astronomy, but also made significant advances in mathematics, including solving complex equations and applying geometry in construction. They also created irrigation systems that allowed for efficient use of resources, which was crucial in the tropical climate where rainfall could be both abundant and scarce. Over time, the Maya created artistic works that are stunning in their beauty and complexity, including stone carvings and wall paintings in temples depicting scenes from daily life and mythology. Numerous artifacts found in places like Copan and Caracol underscore the richness of Maya culture and the depth of their religious beliefs, which included worship of many gods responsible for various aspects of life. Scientific research, such as the work of archaeologist Mary Beth Pearsall, shows that the Maya used cacao trees not only as a food source, but also as currency, indicating a high level of their economic development. The remarkable achievements of this civilization continue to captivate researchers and tourists alike, who strive to unravel the mysteries of their disappearance and understand how such an extraordinary culture could emerge and flourish in the face of complex natural and social conditions. The reasons for the decline of the Maya civilization remain a subject of active debate among historians and archaeologists. One of the main factors is believed to be drought, which struck the region from the 8th to the 9th century AD. Research conducted in the 2000s by a group of scientists led by Dr. Jeremy Collier from the University of Tennessee showed that rainfall levels in some areas decreased by 40%. This led to significant problems with agriculture, as the Maya depended on corn as their primary food source. Food shortages resulted in internal wars between city-states such as Tikal and Copan, which fought for control over resources. Political strife exacerbated the situation. Rulers tried to maintain power, but their actions only intensified the division within society. Additionally, environmental degradation became a serious problem. Archaeological findings indicate that the Maya employed agricultural methods that depleted the soil. For example, during excavations in the Palenque region in the 19th century, traces of excessive fertilization and deforestation were found, leading to soil erosion and worsening agricultural conditions. Combined with these factors, social and economic upheavals further fueled public discontent. It is also important to consider external factors, such as climate change, which could have exacerbated existing problems. In the 21st century, climatologists like Dr. Kenneth T. Smith studied ice samples from Greenland and concluded that temperature changes could have significantly affected weather conditions in Central America. The complex interplay of factors, including aggressive wars, environmental issues, and climate changes, ultimately led to the decline of one of the greatest ancient civilizations. Nevertheless, despite all these factors, some Maya cities, such as Chichen Itza, continued to exist for several centuries after the main decline, indicating that the roots of this culture ran deeper than just economic or political problems. Archaeologists continue to find evidence that the Maya adapted to changing conditions and sought new ways to survive, making the study of their civilization even more fascinating and multi-layered. By the 4th century of our era, the Maya reached their zenith. They constructed magnificent pyramids, temples, and observatories that captivate with their architectural sophistication and precise astronomical calculations. For instance, in Tikal, one of the tallest pyramids, the Temple of the World, stands at approximately 72 meters in height and was built in the early 7th century. The Maya also developed a complex system of hieroglyphic writing, making them one of the few ancient civilizations capable of recording their history and culture in writing. These records reflect not only religious and mythological aspects, but also royal dynasties, military campaigns, and significant events. In the 10th century, despite achieving high levels of culture and technology, the Maya faced a crisis due to climate change, which led to a decline in agricultural productivity and the decline of some cities. However, it is not accurate to assume that this marked the end of the civilization. In the 11th and 12th centuries, the Maya continued to exist, albeit in a modified form, and many cities, such as Chichen Itza and Uxmal, became renowned centers of trade and culture. These cities attracted traders and travelers from the entire region, fostering the development of crafts and arts. Incidentally, Chichen Itza, founded in the 5th century, is known for its unique architectural solutions, including the famous Pyramid of Kukulkan, which served as an astronomical observatory. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, shadows create the illusion. This phenomenon demonstrates the Mayas' deep understanding of astronomy and their connection to the cosmos. Additionally, their achievements in mathematics, including the use of zero, set them apart from other ancient cultures. Throughout their civilization's development, the Maya traded with neighboring peoples, supplying cacao, textiles, and other goods, indicating a high level of economic connections and exchange. Despite internal problems and external threats, such as Spanish colonization in the 16th century, the influence and legacy of the Maya continue to be felt in the present day. The social organization of the Maya was complex and multi-layered, allowing them to effectively manage their city-states. At the top of the social hierarchy were rulers known as ahas, who held not only political power but also religious authority. For example, in the city of Tikal in the 6th century AD, the ruler Tok Tok initiated numerous construction projects and rituals that reinforced his status. Below the rulers were nobles and priests, responsible for performing religious ceremonies and maintaining contact with the gods. Notably, commoners, such as farmers and craftsmen, constituted the majority of the population and contributed to the economy by producing goods and products essential for sustaining life in the cities. Religious beliefs were an integral part of Maya culture. They worshipped numerous gods, each responsible for different aspects of life, such as rain, harvest, and war. For instance, the god of rain, Chak, symbolized the vital rains necessary for agriculture. Rituals associated with the worship of these gods often included human sacrifices, underscoring the seriousness of their beliefs and their understanding of the connection between the divine and the earthly. Important artifacts confirming religious practices include numerous ritual objects found in temple complexes, such as those in Copan, where carvings depicting sacrifices and ceremonies were discovered. Additionally, the Maya calendar, consisting of two main cycles, the Tzolk'in and the Hab, helped them track time for religious festivals and agricultural activities. For example, the Tzolk'in consisted of 12 months and 20 days, totaling 260 days, and was used for organizing rituals. However, how exactly these beliefs and social structures contributed to the resilience of the Maya civilization is a crucial question. How did they deal with challenges such as wars between cities and climate changes? These are, in conclusion, the diversity and complexity of the Maya social structure, as well as the depth of their religious beliefs, created a solid foundation for their culture, which has left a lasting impact. Archaeologists continue to study these aspects to better understand how the Maya were able to create and maintain such a complex civilization over many centuries. How did the Maya construct massive stone structures without modern technologies? One of the most impressive examples of their architectural prowess is the Pyramid of Kukulkan in Chichen Itza, which reaches a height of 30 meters. Built around the year 1000 AD, this pyramid not only demonstrates grandeur, but also the engineering achievements of the Maya. They used limestone quarried from nearby quarries and processed it manually with simple tools such as stone hammers and wooden wedges. Archaeologists like Dr. Edward W. Savage, additionally, to create intricate patterns and decorations on the facades, they employed stone carving techniques that allowed them to create detailed images of gods and mythical creatures. Constructing such structures required not only physical strength, but also precise organization of labor. Research for an important element of their architecture were also special cenotes, which provided water and served as the basis for life in the tropical climate. These cenotes were dug into limestone cliffs and often adorned with stone masonry. The construction of pyramids and temples required not only knowledge of construction technologies, but also a deep understanding of astronomy, as many of their structures were oriented along solar and stellar lines. For example, during the spring equinox, the shadow from the Pyramid of Kukulkan creates the illusion of a snake descending a staircase, which testifies to the Mayas' high level of astronomical knowledge and their connection to religious beliefs. Complex construction projects were an integral part of their culture, reflecting social and political structures, as well as spiritual values. Many such pyramids, like those in Tikal and Palenque, continue to attract the attention of researchers and tourists, demonstrating how advanced the technologies of the Maya were. Ultimately, their ability to build such magnificent structures without access to the technology we have today remains a mystery and a subject of ongoing research. The complexes of Tiwanaku and Pumapunku in Bolivia are among the most mysterious archaeological sites on the planet, still sparking debate among scholars. Tiwanaku, located at an altitude of approximately 3,800 meters above sea level, is considered the cultural center of an ancient civilization that flourished from the beginning of the first millennium CE and reached its peak between the 6th and 10th centuries. The main architectural feature of Tiwanaku is the Temple of Pumapunku, which includes massive stone blocks weighing up to 12 tons, perfectly fitted together without the use of mortar. Scholars like Dr. John Hankey suggest that tools made from harder materials, such as diorite, were used to process the stones. However, it remains unclear how ancient builders, without modern technology, could move and process such heavy stones. Pumapunku is renowned for its monumental structures, where stones were cut with such precision that a knife blade cannot be inserted between them. The walls of this complex, with their characteristic columns and flat stones, are an example of the high skill of ancient architects. These gates, adorned with complex reliefs, were created around the 8th century and, according to historians, served as an astronomical instrument for tracking solar cycles. Around these sites, debates continue about their role in the lives of ancient people. Were they religious centers, administrative buildings, or ritual sites? Some researchers, such as Dr. David Hutchinson, argue that Tiwanaku could have been a major trade hub connecting various Andean cultures. Archaeological layers have yielded remnants of pottery, tools, and even textiles, indicating extensive trade. For example, pottery found in Tiwanaku includes samples decorated with vibrant designs, demonstrating a high level of artistic skill. An important aspect of these complexes is their location in a zone where only a limited number of crops can be grown, raising questions about the ability to sustain a large population. However, research shows that the inhabitants of Tiwanaku used complex irrigation systems to increase production. In some places, remnants of canals have been found, estimated to have been built more than 2,000 years ago. These canals allowed for irrigation and ensured sufficient food for the population. The creation of such complexes as Tiwanaku and Pumapunku required not only high architectural skills, but also organizational capabilities that are difficult to imagine for ancient civilizations. In conclusion, many mysteries surrounding these architectural marvels remain unsolved, and modern technologies such as laser scanning and ground-penetrating radar are just beginning to reveal new insights into these ancient structures. Scholars continue to study these sites, hoping to unravel the secrets of their creation and use in ancient times. The stone constructions of Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, located in Bolivia, are outstanding examples of ancient Colombian architecture. These structures were built approximately between the 13th and 15th centuries AD and continue to spark debate among archaeologists and historians regarding the methods of their construction. Particularly impressive is the precision of the massive blocks, which can weigh up to 100 tons. The blocks of andesite stone used in the construction were cut with such precision that not even a knife blade can fit between them. This perfect fit challenges traditional notions of the technologies available to ancient civilizations. One of the most famous examples of such precision is the stone of 100 tons at Pumapunku. The high-quality craftsmanship of the blocks and the absence of visible seams testify to the skill of the stonemasons of that time. Some researchers, such as archaeologist Dr. Benjamin Brown, suggest that tools made of copper and other metals may have been used to create such constructions, but this remains a subject of debate. It is also noteworthy that in Tiwanaku, stone carvings with images were found, which may indicate astronomical knowledge and cultural practices of the local inhabitants. For example, the Gateway of the Sun in Tiwanaku, carved from a single block, contains complex symbols that researchers believe are connected to solar rituals. Additionally, the architectural elements of these constructions, such as massive walls and monumental staircases, emphasize the significance of these places in ancient rituals and social life. These structures not only served as religious centers, but also likely had political and economic importance. Tiwanaku was considered a major trading center through which goods, knowledge, and cultural ties were exchanged with other regions, such as Peru. For instance, it is still unclear how the ancient builders moved and installed such massive blocks. Some theories suggest the use of roller systems and lifting mechanisms, but direct evidence is lacking. Research continues, and each new excavation brings hope for uncovering another mystery of this remarkable culture. Archaeologists, including Dr. Sandra Martinez, are actively exploring the surrounding areas in search of additional artifacts that may help clarify how these unique structures functioned. It is important to note that Tiwanaku and Pumapunku not only impress with their size and beauty, but also provide insights into the social, economic, and religious life of the civilization that inhabited the Andean highlands. The unique architectural features and construction technologies of these sites attract the interest of historians and enthusiasts of ancient history worldwide. How did the builders of Tiwanaku and Pumapunku create such heavy structures in high-altitude conditions? These ancient civilizations, which once thrived on the territory of modern-day Bolivia, employed a range of unique methods and technologies to overcome the challenges posed by heights exceeding 3,800 meters above sea level. Specifically, the stone blocks used in construction weighed up to several hundred tons. One of the most famous examples is the so-called stone carving at Pumapunku, where the blocks were cut with such precision that modern scientists still cannot explain how it was achieved. Some researchers, such as archaeologist Dr. Jose L. Hook, suggest that ancient craftsmen might have used a combination of simple machines like rollers and inclined planes to move these massive blocks. For instance, a study conducted in 2018 revealed that local residents used various types of plant extracts to create lubricants. This reduced the friction between stones and the ground, making their transportation easier. Notably, the plants used for these mixtures grew only at altitudes above 3,000 meters. Ancient builders might also have employed a technique known as vibrational processing to reduce the weight of the blocks before moving them. This method involves creating vibrations that decrease the gravitational force acting on the object. Thus, ancient cultures developed their construction skills by adapting to the complex environmental conditions, allowing us to marvel at their achievements today. Many mysteries surrounding the construction methods of Tiwanaku and Pumapunku remain unsolved, and ongoing excavations may provide new insights. For example, in 2020, archaeologists discovered several new stone blocks that are likely part of an unknown structure, which could change our understanding of the technologies used by ancient builders. Researchers studying the technologies used to build megaliths in Tiwanaku and Pumapunku propose several theories regarding the methods of transporting and processing stones. One of the most widely accepted hypotheses involves the use of ropes, which could have been made from local plants such as reeds. These ropes likely allowed work groups to lift and move heavy blocks weighing several tons. According to archaeologist Erik von Däniken, traces of such ropes were found in Tiwanaku, supporting this theory. Additionally, it is suggested that the workforce consisted of thousands of people who united in teams to accomplish complex tasks. One ancient chronicle, dating back approximately 1800 years, mentions how local residents organized labor gangs to transport stones over long distances. It is also noted that special sleds made of wood and lined with animal hides could have been used for transporting blocks. This reduced friction during movement on the ground, significantly easing the task. Some scientists, such as Professor José Luis Castro, assert that for moving blocks along waterways, reed boats were used, which allowed stones to be transported from quarries along rivers. For example, the Titicaca River, which runs near Tiwanaku, could have served as a major transportation route. These boats, made of lightweight materials, could carry large volumes of cargo and were used to deliver stones to construction sites. It is interesting that in some places, archaeologists have found traces of ropes and sandals, further confirming a multi-layered approach to transportation. It is important to note that the exact methods of stone processing remain a subject of debate. Some researchers suggest that stones could have been processed using simple tools such as copper or bronze hammers, while others claim that more complex technologies, such as vibration for stone splitting, were used. As a result of these diverse methods, requiring significant effort and enormous amounts of time, impressive megalithic structures were created, which continue to amaze researchers. Archaeological findings show that stones in Pumapunku were precisely processed and fitted together with remarkable accuracy, achieving a gap of less than 1 millimeter. The social organization and religious beliefs of the Tiwanaku and Pumapunku societies remain a subject of active debate among scholars. Research indicates that Tiwanaku, located on the high Andean plateau, was not only a center of architectural excellence, but also a significant social and religious hub. At its peak, around the middle of the first millennium CE, this society could have numbered up to 100,000 people. The primary element of social structure were communities that united into larger groups, possibly based on kinship or professional activities. These communities provided mutual aid in agriculture, which was crucial for survival on the high plateau, where conditions for farming were challenging. Religious life in Tiwanaku was an integral part of daily life, and archaeologists have discovered numerous temples, including the famous Temple of the Sun, which is believed to have played a central role in cultic practices. These temples served not only as places of worship, but also as centers for public rituals that could include sacrifices and festivals aimed at appeasing the gods. An important aspect of their beliefs was the veneration of deities associated with natural elements such as the sun, moon, and water, as evidenced by the numerous statues and reliefs found in the area depicting these deities. For example, statues found in Tiwanaku often have distinctive features such as large heads and facial expressions that researchers associate with rituals aimed at ensuring fertility and prosperity. Additionally, archaeological layers in Pumapunku have revealed traces of a complex irrigation system that may have been linked to religious practices, as control over water resources was critically important for agriculture and, consequently, for the society's survival. Scientific works by researchers such as K.H. Brown and E. Podzarski analyze how social and religious aspects intertwined in the life of this society, creating a unique and complex cultural environment. For instance, Brown emphasizes in his works that religious beliefs were not merely a reflection of society, but an active agent shaping its social structure. It is interesting to note that many of the rituals and beliefs of Tiwanaku were preserved and adapted in Inca culture, highlighting their significance and influence on subsequent civilizations. This cultural exchange can be traced through artifacts and architecture preserved in Inca heritage, which adopted many elements from Tiwanaku culture, revealing the depth of interaction between these ancient societies. Research continues, and new technologies such as radiocarbon dating help scholars refine the chronology of events and better understand the development of social and religious structures in Tiwanaku and Pumapunku. In particular, results from radiocarbon dating conducted in 2015 provide more precise temporal boundaries for the existence of this society and its impact on surrounding regions. The Akapana Pyramid, located in Tiwanaku, is a unique architectural monument dating back to approximately the 12th century of our era. Its height is around 22 meters, and its base measures 100 meters by 100 meters, making it one of the largest pyramids in the region. The stepped platform of this pyramid showcases the remarkable engineering skills of the ancient Tiwanaku civilization. The construction includes a complex drainage system that effectively drained water during rains, preventing erosion and destruction of the structure. This drainage system was crucial for preserving the pyramid, as Tiwanaku is located at an altitude of over 3,800 meters above sea level, where frequent rainfall could cause significant damage. The interior of the Akapana Pyramid consists of carefully cut stones, joined with a special mortar, creating a strong and durable structure. Near the pyramid, there is a courtyard with stone gates made of enormous blocks and meticulously fitted together. These gates served not only as an entrance, but also as a symbol of power and significance, demonstrating the skill of Tiwanaku stonemasons. The Kalasaya Pyramid, located nearby, also deserves attention. It was built in a similar style and has its own features, including a central courtyard and a platform surrounded by massive walls. Archaeological research conducted in 2006 revealed that both pyramids were part of a vast sanctuary that played a key role in the religious life of the Tiwanaku society. These monuments are not just architectural achievements, but also reflect the social structure and cultural traditions of this ancient people who left a lasting mark on the history of South America. The stones used for construction were quarried from nearby quarries, and their transportation to the construction site required significant effort and organization. The Akapana Pyramid, in particular, was surrounded by numerous small sanctuaries and ritual objects, indicating its importance in religious practice. Researchers noted that the presence of the drainage system indicates a high level of understanding of hydrology and engineering among the ancient builders, which in turn suggests a complex system of management and planning that existed in Tiwanaku. Chinese pyramids, particularly those located in the province of Shanxi, are unique archaeological sites about which relatively little is known, but which hold immense significance for the history of ancient China. The most famous of these is the pyramid in the Xi'an area, which, according to research, was constructed during the Qin dynasty, around the 1st century AD. Known as the Emperor's Pyramid, it stands approximately 45 meters tall and has a base measuring 400 meters by 400 meters. Archaeologists such as Professor Chen Jinzhong from Beijing University assert that these structures can serve as evidence of a complex social structure and a highly advanced culture that existed in China more than 2,000 years ago. Unlike the pyramids in Egypt, which were built for the burial of pharaohs, Chinese pyramids are believed to have served as burial sites for emperors and other dignitaries. Unlike their Egyptian counterparts, Chinese pyramids are often covered in vegetation and poorly studied, presenting additional challenges for archaeologists. For example, in 2005, Chinese researchers discovered a complex of more than 30 pyramids, many of which remain unexcavated. These pyramids feature characteristic sloping walls and are often surrounded by moats, indicating a sophisticated defense system. Scientific research shows that the construction of these pyramids involved local clays and stones, and their shape may have been influenced by the philosophy of Taoism, where harmony with nature was central. It is interesting to note that some studies conducted in 2009 suggest the presence of underground tunnels leading to these pyramids, which may indicate complex rituals related to burial. In one such pyramid, a clay figurine of warriors was found, suggesting the idea of guarding the deceased even after death. Such discoveries, such as clay figurines and ceramic remnants, confirm that complex rituals were conducted in these tombs and that they were important sites for ancestor veneration. Thus, Chinese pyramids not only represent architectural achievements, but also provide insights into the political and social structure of ancient China, as well as its cultural traditions and beliefs. Chinese pyramids located in the Low River Valley have sparked lively interest not only among archaeologists, but also among historians, as their purpose remains a subject of debate and various theories. One of the most widespread hypotheses is that these pyramids served as tombs for emperors and their families. For instance, the tomb of the first Chinese emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi, built in the 3rd century BCE, is located near the pyramids and is a vast complex that includes an underground city where more than 8,000 terracotta warriors were discovered. These warriors, created to guard the emperor in the afterlife, illustrate the significance of the concept of afterlife for ancient Chinese people. Moreover, in the 20th century, archaeologists uncovered several other tombs that could have belonged to members of imperial families, such as the Tang dynasty, which ruled from the 6th to the 9th century CE. Some researchers suggest that these pyramids could have been used for the burial of high-ranking officials, not just emperors, indicating a complex power structure and social hierarchy of the time. For example, in the province of Shanxi, more than 2,000 kilometers from Beijing, a tomb of a general dating back to the 1st century CE was found, also in the form of a pyramid, confirming that this style was not exclusive to imperial figures. Tombs within the Chinese pyramids are often adorned with reliefs and inscriptions that can provide insights into the lives and achievements of the deceased. Some scholars, such as Professor Li Jun from the Institute of Archaeology in China, argue that the architectural features of the pyramids indicate the influence of ancient Egyptian culture. Although this remains a contentious issue, it is important to note that many of these pyramids remain unexplored, and only a small fraction of the discovered objects has been thoroughly studied, leaving numerous questions about their use and the rituals that may have been performed around them. For example, in one of the pyramids, unique ceramic artifacts were found, which archaeologists believe could have been used for sacrifices, further emphasizing the importance of rituals in the burial process. In this context, it is worth mentioning that in medieval China, various rituals related to ancestor veneration were practiced, underscoring the importance of maintaining a connection with the deceased. Thus, the pyramids are not just architectural structures, but also evidence of a complex system of beliefs and rituals that existed in ancient China. Archaeologists continue to study these enigmatic structures, which may lead to new discoveries and a deeper understanding of China's cultural heritage. Currently, more than 20 pyramids have been discovered, many of which are still buried under the ground, awaiting their turn to be unearthed. The construction of Chinese pyramids began long before the Han Dynasty, but it was during this period, which spans from 200 to 90 BCE, that there was significant activity in building such structures. The Han Dynasty is marked not only by the expansion of the empire's territory, but also by substantial advancements in architecture and engineering. For instance, in 20 CE, Emperor Liu Qi, the founder of the Han Dynasty, ordered the construction of a massive tomb for his predecessor, Emperor Gaozu. This tomb, known as the Han Mausoleum, was surrounded by a number of smaller pyramids that served as burial structures for high-ranking officials and members of the imperial family. The mausoleum itself is a colossal structure with a height of around 40 meters and a base width of about 100 meters. Inside the mausoleum, archaeologists have found numerous artifacts, including ceramics and bronze items, which indicate a high level of craftsmanship and technological achievements of the time. The pyramid located near the modern city of Xi'an is just one of many that were built during this period. It is important to note that Chinese pyramids differ from their Egyptian counterparts. They have a more rounded shape and are often covered with grass and shrubs, making them less visible in the landscape. The total number of known Chinese pyramids varies from 30 to 50, but many of them have not yet been studied. Archaeological research continues into the 21st century, and according to Professor Chen Li from Peking University, there may still be forgotten monuments hidden in some regions. For example, in 2020, a new pyramid was discovered in the province of Shanxi, which, according to preliminary analyses, dates back to the 1st century CE and contains elements characteristic of Han Dynasty burial rituals. This discovery underscores the need for a comprehensive approach to the study of Chinese pyramids, including not only archaeological excavations, but also the use of modern technologies such as ground-penetrating radar and 3D modeling, which allow for the investigation of underground structures without excavation. Thus, in 2019, a team of scientists from Shanghai University used ground-penetrating radar to create a three-dimensional model of a pyramid in the Lunmen region, opening new perspectives for the study of its internal structure. The pyramids built during the Han Dynasty also reflect a distinct cultural context. They are not only burial sites, but also reflect a complex system of beliefs and practices related to the afterlife. For example, in some pyramids, remains of sacrifices, animals, and objects were found, which were believed to ensure the comfort of rulers in the afterlife. It is also worth noting that the pyramids were often located in sacred places, indicating the importance of nature and the cosmos in ancient Chinese culture. Chinese pyramids, such as the Emperor Qin Shi Huang's tomb in Xi'an, raise numerous questions about the methods used in their construction. How exactly did ancient Chinese people manage to build such monumental structures that continue to amaze architects and historians today? One of the key methods involved the use of rammed earth, which allowed for the creation of strong and stable structures. Builders employed a technique known as frame foundation, where a layer of rammed earth was placed between wooden frames, ensuring the necessary rigidity. This method was widely used in China during the Han Dynasty, and there were even specialized teams of workers dedicated solely to the task of ramming earth. Additionally, materials such as limestone and brick, which were sourced locally, were used in the construction process. For example, for the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, limestone blocks were hand-cut and transported to the construction site. This work required significant effort. Thousands of workers were involved, and even by today's standards, this was a monumental undertaking. It is important to note that these pyramids served not only as tombs, but also as observatories, indicating the advanced astronomical knowledge of the ancient Chinese. For instance, the orientation of the pyramids often corresponded to significant astronomical events, such as the winter and summer solstices, highlighting their connection to nature. From an organizational standpoint, the construction of pyramids reflected the complex social structure of society. Workers were divided into groups, each with specific responsibilities, from material extraction to final finishing. This division of labor allowed for efficient management of the process and minimized the time required for construction. Some researchers, such as Professor Li Chen from Peking University, argue that the construction of pyramids involved not only physical effort, but also complex engineering calculations that took into account local conditions and climatic features. As a result, the construction of Chinese pyramids became not only a testament to architectural genius, but also a reflection of the social, economic, and cultural life of the society of that time. These pyramids remain not only historical monuments, but also objects of future research, as many aspects of their construction still puzzle scientists. In particular, questions about the quantity of materials used and the exact completion dates continue to be debated among archaeologists. How did Chinese builders create massive earthen structures of Chinese pyramids? These pyramids, known as imperial tombs, are located in the center of ancient China, in the province of Shanxi. For instance, the largest of them, the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang, was built in the 3rd century BC and covers an area of more than 200 square kilometers. Constructing such massive structures required not only significant materials, but also a vast number of workers. Research shows that over 30,000 workers, including soldiers, peasants, and prisoners, were mobilized to build the tomb of Qin Shi Huang. These people worked in conditions close to slavery, and many of them perished during the process, highlighting the harsh realities of the time. Simple yet effective methods were used to create the pyramids. Workers dug the earth and piled it into special molds, gradually forming the structure. They employed primitive but effective technologies, such as wooden frameworks and simple tools, to dig the earth and lay it in layers. For example, to reinforce the walls, they used bricks made of clay and stones quarried nearby. To achieve the necessary height and shape, builders used systems of inclined ramps, which were used to lift heavy blocks. These ramps could reach lengths of up to 1 kilometer and provided safer access to the upper layers of the structure. It is interesting that many archaeologists believe that the pyramids were not only burial places, but also symbols of power, serving to demonstrate the might of rulers. Inside the pyramids, numerous artifacts were found, including bronze weapons, ceramic items, and even wooden statues, indicating the high technological achievements of the time. For example, in the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, thousands of terracotta soldiers were discovered, which served as guards for the emperor in the afterlife, becoming one of the most famous archaeological finds of the 20th century. Each of these soldiers has unique facial features, demonstrating the skill of ancient Chinese craftsmen and their deep devotion to culture and traditions. Moreover, resources, different dynasties, such as Han and Tang, also left their marks on the construction, adding new elements and improving technologies, making each subsequent pyramid unique. Therefore, Chinese pyramids represent not only remarkable architectural achievements, but also significant historical monuments, telling the story of life, culture, and social structure of ancient China. As a result, research on these tombs continues, with each new discovery opening new pages of history. The Great Pyramid, also known as the Pyramid of Khufu, is located on the Giza Plateau, approximately 25 kilometers southwest of modern-day Cairo, the capital of Egypt. It is the largest and first of the three pyramids built for the pharaohs of the 4th dynasty, and its height once reached 146 meters. Construction of the pyramid began around 2,500 years before our era and lasted approximately 20 years. The pyramid is composed of more than 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing between 2.5 and 15 tons. This colossal structure served as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu and was part of a larger complex that included temples, mortuary temples, and other elements designed to facilitate the pharaoh's transition to the afterlife. Notably, the pyramid's orientation is not coincidental. It is aligned with the cardinal directions with remarkable precision, indicating the advanced skills of ancient Egyptian architects and astronomers. The Giza Plateau also houses other pyramids, such as the Pyramid of Khafra and the Pyramid of Menkaure, which were also designed in accordance with astronomical and religious principles. The Great Pyramid was originally covered in white limestone that reflected sunlight, making it visible from tens of kilometers away, but most of this covering has been destroyed over the centuries. Restoration and study of the pyramid began in the 19th century, when the French archaeologist Jean-François Champollion, known for his research on ancient Egyptian writing, drew attention to this architectural marvel. Since then, the pyramid has attracted the interest of researchers, tourists, and even treasure seekers, each leaving their mark on the history of this magnificent structure. Today, the Great Pyramid is part of the UNESCO World Heritage List and one of the last remaining 7 wonders of the ancient world. Additionally, research has shown that the internal structure of the pyramid is much more complex than previously thought. Hidden chambers and passageways have been discovered and continue to be studied. The internal architecture includes corridors leading to the king's chamber and the mortuary cult chamber, which were designed for the performance of rituals related to the afterlife. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built around 2,500 years ago during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, is a remarkable example of ancient Egyptian architecture and engineering prowess. Its height of 146 meters makes it the tallest pyramid in the world. Additionally, it was constructed from more than 2.5 million stone blocks, each weighing between 2 and 5 tons. These blocks, made of limestone and granite, were quarried from nearby quarries located just a few kilometers from the construction site. Remarkably, the ancient builders achieved such precision in fitting the blocks that gaps between them often do not exceed 1 millimeter. This accuracy was achieved using simple yet effective tools such as copper chisels and wooden hammers, as well as well-thought-out methods for transporting the blocks. Research indicates that for moving these massive stones, a system of rollers and sleds was used, significantly reducing friction. To lift the blocks to great heights, ramps were employed, which could be up to 100 meters long by modern estimates. Each side of the pyramid is oriented with such precision towards the cardinal directions that the deviation does not exceed 1 degree, indicating a high level of astronomical knowledge and skills among the ancient Egyptians. Furthermore, the total area of the pyramid's base exceeds 30 square meters, allowing it to occupy a significant area on the Giza Plateau. Surrounding the pyramid are 3 smaller pyramids, belonging to the wives of the pharaoh, and several other funerary structures, underscoring its importance in the context of ancient Egyptian culture. Scientists continue to study this structure using modern technologies such as laser scanning, which provides new insights into the construction methods and architectural solutions employed. These findings allow for a deeper understanding not only of the pyramid itself, but also of the society that was capable of creating such a monumental structure. There are numerous theories about the methods used to build the Great Pyramid of Giza, each offering intriguing aspects and approaches to understanding this monumental project. One of the earliest theories posits that workers employed simple mechanisms such as wooden levers and inclined planes. Archaeologist Dr. Richard Parsons, in his book The Secrets of the Pyramids, describes how stone blocks weighing up to 2.5 tons were raised using a system of rollers and pulleys, significantly reducing the effort required for their movement. However, such methods have limitations, and many researchers began to consider more complex solutions. For instance, Dr. David Hassel, a theorist and engineer, proposed that builders used both physical and astronomical knowledge. He points out that the pyramid's alignment with the cardinal directions and its relation to the positions of stars suggests that the ancient Egyptians had advanced astronomical understanding. Scholars also study the mathematical aspects of the construction. According to calculations by Professor Mohammed El-Zahra, the proportions between the sides of the pyramid reflect mathematical ratios such as pi and the golden ratio, indicating a high level of mathematical sophistication among the architects. Another theory involves the use of massive labor resources. Estimates suggest that around 20,000 workers were needed, working in 3 shifts. Based on data collected by archaeologists, Dr. Muhammad Abdullah's team found that workers received food and lodging in nearby settlements, confirming that they were not slaves, as previously believed, but rather permanent workers receiving payment for their labor. An important element is also the hypothetical system of channels through which stones could be delivered from quarries up to 50 kilometers away. Research shows that the Nile River could have been used for material transportation, significantly easing logistics. This suggests that the Egyptians possessed unique knowledge and technologies that may have been lost in subsequent centuries. Scientific research conducted in the 2000s using laser technology showed that the pyramids were built with such precision that deviations from ideal angles do not exceed a few millimeters. Therefore, theories about the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza continue to evolve, opening new horizons for understanding not only the structure itself, but also the society that could undertake such an ambitious project. Through the study of various methods and approaches to construction, historians and archaeologists strive to reconstruct a complete picture of that time. How did ancient builders achieve the perfect alignment of millions of blocks in the Great Pyramid of Giza? This mystery has puzzled scholars for centuries. The Great Pyramid, built around 2,500 years before our era during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, is not only the largest of all Egyptian pyramids, but also a remarkable example of architectural prowess. The construction of this pyramid required more than 2 million stone blocks, each weighing an average of about 2.5 tons. Archaeologists like Dr. Zahi Hawass note that to achieve such precision, builders employed complex methods, including leveling systems and sighting lines. For instance, they might use long wooden beams fixed at eye level to control the horizontality of each row. These beams could be several meters long, allowing workers to check the alignment of the stones. It is also known that builders used simple tools such as ropes and plumb bobs to achieve the desired level, but their ingenuity did not stop there. Based on modern research, such as the work of Professor Mark Lehner, it is clear that builders used a unique method based on observing stars to set the precise orientation of the pyramid towards cardinal points. This is confirmed by the fact that the pyramid's angle of inclination is approximately 81 degrees, which corresponds to the position of stars at that time. There are also suggestions that for moving heavy blocks, special wooden sleds were used, which were dragged over wet soil, significantly reducing friction. These methods could have helped create perfectly aligned walls that continue to amaze with their precision. Additionally, it is important to note that each block was pre-processed using copper tools, allowing for the creation of smooth surfaces. The size and shape of the blocks varied depending on their position in the pyramid, with lower blocks being larger and upper blocks smaller. This approach not only reinforced the structure, but also ensured a visually appealing appearance of the pyramid. Scientific research shows that other methods were also used during construction, such as creating temporary frames and systems for monitoring work progress, which allowed workers to maintain a high degree of coordination and accuracy. It is interesting that to this day, no single historical document has been found that describes the construction process of the pyramid, making this topic even more intriguing for researchers. However, each new excavation project and each new discovery, such as those in the Giza area, brings us closer to understanding how the ancient Egyptians were able to create this architectural marvel. In 1899, archaeologists discovered near the pyramid a whole complex of worker settlements, which confirmed that the construction was carried out over decades, not just months. There are several theories about the methods that ancient Egyptians might have used to transport and lift the enormous stone blocks needed for the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. The most widely accepted theory is the use of ramps. This hypothesis suggests that workers could construct inclined slabs that provided access to the upper levels of the pyramid. Research shows that such ramps could be made of clay bricks or other materials, making them strong enough to carry heavy blocks. For instance, the mass of a single limestone block used in the construction of the pyramid could reach 2.5 tons. Important research conducted by archaeologist Mark Lehner indicates that the height of the ramp could reach 30 meters, and its length could be up to 100 meters. Another theory proposes the use of rollers. Some scientists, such as David O'Connor, claim that blocks could be rolled on wooden rollers, which would significantly ease their movement. However, this would require vast amounts of wood, raising questions about its availability during that time. It is also worth considering the use of ropes and a system of pulleys. Workers could connect blocks with ropes and lift them using simple mechanisms, allowing them to lift large masses with minimal effort. This technique, known as the block and tackle system, could explain how ancient Egyptians managed to handle such heavy stones. It is important to note that all these methods required a well-organized workforce. According to research, tens of thousands of people worked on the pyramids, including stonecutters, architects, and simple laborers, who were divided into groups, each performing their specific tasks. These theories continue to be discussed, and new archaeological discoveries may provide clarity on this issue in the future. For example, in 2009, several ancient tools were found that could confirm the use of ramps. The city of Mohenjo-Daro, located in the Indus Valley, is considered one of the most significant archaeological sites of the ancient Indus civilization. Founded around 2,400 years before our era, this city was a model of urban planning and organization of life, indicating a high level of development among its inhabitants. Mohenjo-Daro was meticulously planned with streets intersecting at right angles and houses built from fired brick, ensuring their durability and longevity. One of the most notable features of the city is its complex drainage system, which included drainage channels along the streets connected to private homes. These channels were likely used for waste removal, indicating a high level of sanitation and hygiene. Archaeologists estimate that the city housed between 20 and 40,000 people, making it one of the largest cities of its time. Among the artifacts found in Mohenjo-Daro, terracotta figurines stand out, such as the famous Dancing Girl, which is believed to depict a woman in traditional attire, providing insights into the fashion and culture of the time. Seals with animal images and inscriptions were also discovered, which may have been part of the Indus civilization's writing system, still not deciphered by scholars. The city was surrounded by a protective wall, reaching up to 7 meters in height, suggesting the need for protection against external threats. Archaeological research shows that Mohenjo-Daro was not only a trade center, but also a place where crafts such as metallurgy and textile production thrived. In 2012, a group of archaeologists led by Dr. Ravi Chandra continued excavations that confirmed the presence of complex social structures and diverse economic ties with neighboring regions. They discovered traces of ritual practices, including altars, indicating the presence of religious beliefs among the city's inhabitants. The destruction of Mohenjo-Daro, likely occurring at the end of the second millennium before our era, could have been caused by various factors, including climate change, floods, and population migrations. Mohenjo-Daro rightfully deserves the title of a technological marvel of its time, and its study continues to reveal new pages of ancient Indian history. In 2020, archaeologists discovered the remains of a large public building in the city, which was probably used for gatherings, adding a new dimension to the understanding of social life in Mohenjo-Daro. The urban planning of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the main cities of the Indus Valley civilization, is a striking example of well-thought-out city planning that dates back to the 3rd millennium BCE. The grid-like structure of its streets, consisting of straight, parallel, and perpendicular lines, conveys a sense of high organization. The streets are up to 9 meters wide, allowing for easy movement within the city and ensuring access to homes and public buildings. Each quarter typically consists of several houses built from standardized burnt bricks, measuring approximately 30 by 30 by 7 centimeters, indicating a high level of construction technology and the existence of common standards. which was rare for the time. These bricks enabled the construction of multi-story houses, reflecting the development of residential construction and the ability to work with architectural forms. Mohenjo-Daro is also renowned for its complex drainage system, which includes underground sewers and street drains. These channels, lined with bricks, ensured the removal of sewage and rainwater, preventing flooding of the streets and maintaining sanitary conditions in the city. For instance, in some parts of the city, the drainage system was so well developed that the sewer pipes had a diameter of up to 30 centimeters, allowing for effective handling of large volumes of water. Such engineering solutions demonstrate that the residents of Mohenjo-Daro possessed considerable knowledge in the fields of hydraulics and urban planning. Archaeological findings show that in some areas the drainage channels were connected to houses, indicating the presence of a water supply system, which underscores the high level of social organization. The city was not only a center of trade and culture, but also served as a model for future civilizations, as the principles of planning and engineering continue to be studied today. Mohenjo-Daro, as part of the Indus Valley civilization, is a living testament to the times when people first began to understand the importance of comfort and sanitation in urban environments. In the 20th century, archaeologists such as Sir John Marshall, who conducted excavations in this region in the 1930s, noted that the existence of such complex systems for managing water resources had no parallels in other ancient civilizations. The Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, discovered in the citadel of this ancient city, is one of the most impressive structures of the Indus civilization, dating back approximately 25 centuries before our era. This construction, measuring about 12 meters in length and 8 meters in width, was likely intended for ritual bathing, emphasizing the importance of water rituals in the culture of its inhabitants. The walls and floor of the bath were constructed from carefully laid waterproof masonry, indicating a high level of engineering skill at the time. Archaeologists such as Sir John Marshall, who conducted excavations in this region, noted that to achieve such waterproofing, bitumen was used, which was applied to the joints between stones and tiles. Bitumen found in this area was not only used for waterproofing, but also for other construction purposes, suggesting a high level of technology available to the residents of Mohenjo-Daro. Additionally, the bath had a drainage system, allowing water to be effectively removed, which is also a sign of advanced infrastructure. Inside, there were steps leading into the water, indicating that this bath was not just a place for bathing, but also a space for social interaction and rituals. Research shows that no similar structures were found in other known ancient civilizations, such as Egypt or Mesopotamia, making Mohenjo-Daro a unique example of an early urban civilization. As a result of the excavations, numerous artifacts were discovered, including pottery and tools, which help understand the daily life of people at that time. The unique design and use of advanced technologies in the Great Bath make it one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, opening new horizons for the study and understanding of the complex social structure and cultural practices of the people of the Indus Valley. The organization and maintenance of the complex drainage system of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the oldest cities of the Indus civilization, raised numerous questions among contemporary researchers. How did the inhabitants of this city, which existed around the 3rd millennium BCE, manage to create such a well-thought-out infrastructure? For instance, archaeologists have found that the streets were designed with a slope for draining rainwater, thus preventing flooding. Additionally, the drainage channels were between 30 and 40 centimeters wide and deep, and were lined with bricks, which gave them durability. What experience and knowledge did the builders use to ensure the system functioned in a tropical climate? Perhaps they drew inspiration from earlier cultures, such as the Sumerians, who also employed methods of water resource management. It is also intriguing to learn how the city's inhabitants maintained this system in working condition. Were there special groups of people responsible for regular cleaning of the channels? Research shows that in some places, drainage channels were connected to houses, indicating that wastewater was directly channeled from living quarters. What role did such engineering solutions play in daily life? Clearly, such a system not only provided sanitary conditions, but also facilitated agricultural development, as it allowed for effective water management for irrigation. Moreover, findings from Mohenjo-Daro, such as specialized water supply systems in homes, demonstrate that the inhabitants possessed advanced technical knowledge for constructing complex engineering structures. Regarding materials, fired bricks were used for construction, which were stronger and more durable. How did this affect the cost of construction and the availability of such solutions for the population? Some researchers suggest that the high costs of building and maintaining drainage systems could have led to social stratification, as not everyone could afford such conveniences. It is also important to consider how climate changes might have impacted the system's efficiency. For example, changes in rainfall could have necessitated the adaptation of existing drainage solutions. Consequently, the question arises: how did the inhabitants of Mohenjo-Daro cope with these challenges? Archaeological research continues, and each newly discovered element can provide additional answers to these questions. For example, in the year 2000, a group of archaeologists led by Dr. Ravi Kumar discovered sections with remnants of complex drainage systems that were preserved in excellent condition, confirming the high quality of their construction. There are several theories about the causes of the decline of Mohenjo-Daro, which are actively discussed by scientists. One of the most widely accepted theories suggests that climatic changes played a key role. Research conducted in the early 2000s showed that in the period from 2000 to 1800 BC in the region, there were sharp climatic changes, particularly an increase in the frequency of droughts. These changes could have led to water scarcity, which in turn had a negative impact on agriculture. According to data collected by meteorologists and climatologists, the average annual rainfall in the Indian subcontinent significantly decreased, leading to crop failures and famine. Another theory posits that the shift of rivers could also have contributed to the decline of Mohenjo-Daro. For example, the Indus River, which was the main source of water for the ancient city, could have changed its course, creating problems with water access. Research conducted in 2018 established that geological changes in the region could have caused the river to move away from the city, making irrigation of fields more difficult. A third, Malika Sharma, proposed that military conflicts could have led to the destruction of urban infrastructure and a decrease in population. In her research, she refers to archaeological finds such as tools and weapons discovered near Mohenjo-Daro, which indicate possible conflicts. Additionally, in recent decades, researchers have begun to consider the cumulative effect of all these factors, which could have led to the gradual decline of Mohenjo-Daro. Therefore, climatic changes, river shifts, and possible invasions could all have played a role in the disappearance of one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. In 2020, an archaeological team led by Dr. Ravi Kumar discovered new artifacts in the area of Mohenjo-Daro, providing additional evidence for further study of these theories. Mohenjo-Daro, one of the largest cities of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, was built around the 20th century BCE and served as a model of advanced urban planning of its time. The city exhibited a well-thought-out layout with straight streets dividing it into quarters, unlike the chaotic construction of many other ancient settlements. Archaeologists such as Dr. Ravikumar noted that the width of the streets was approximately 7 meters, allowing for easy movement within the city and effective management of people and goods. One of the most outstanding features of Mohenjo-Daro was its sanitation system. Houses were equipped with drains that connected to a central sewer system running beneath the streets. This system was so advanced that in some aspects it surpasses similar systems created in later centuries. For example, ceramic pipes with a diameter of up to 20 centimeters were found in the city, used for draining wastewater, and reservoirs for storing water, indicating a high level of engineering thought and the importance of hygienic norms for its inhabitants. Archaeological excavations also revealed that Mohenjo-Daro was surrounded by a powerful stone wall, reaching a height of 6 meters in some places, serving as protection against potential attacks. Such a level of construction technology and architectural solutions attests to the high social and economic development of the society that inhabited this city. Specialists believe that the residents of Mohenjo-Daro used standardized measurement units for construction, which also underscores their organization and advancement. Notably, numerous seals with animal images and symbols were found in the city, which researchers believe were used for conducting business transactions and may indicate the existence of a complex trading system. Additionally, Mohenjo-Daro, unlike many other ancient cities, had access to a maritime trade route, which contributed to its economic prosperity and cultural exchanges with neighboring civilizations such as ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. This connection with other cultures likely enriched the local art and craftsmanship, as evidenced by artifacts such as gold and precious stone jewelry. In summary, Mohenjo-Daro became a symbol of outstanding engineering skill and cultural richness, making it one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Archaeologists continue to study this unique city, providing new insights into its inhabitants and their way of life. Easter Island, located in the southeastern part of the Pacific Ocean, is renowned for its enigmatic moai statues. These colossal stone figures, carved from volcanic tuff, were created by the island's original inhabitants, the Rapa Nui, between the 12th and 17th centuries. The statues vary in size, with the largest reaching heights of around 10 meters and weighing up to 18 tons. In total, there are more than 900 moai on the island, most of which are located on the Ahu platforms, emphasizing their cultural and ritual significance. One of the most famous statues, known as Hangaroa, was restored in the 1990s and consists of a row of 15 statues facing the sea. This platform has been the subject of extensive archaeological research, and scientists have determined that the statues likely symbolized ancestors and served to reinforce the social structure of the society. However, the story is not so simple, as various theories exist to explain how the Rapa Nui moved these massive statues. One of the most popular hypotheses suggests the use of a system of logs, along which the statues were rolled onto specially prepared platforms. However, in recent years, alternative ideas have emerged, including the possibility of walking the statues using special techniques. Researchers such as Professor Christopher Moss from the University of California have conducted experimental reconstructions that demonstrate the statues could be moved with small pushes and manipulations. Additionally, a study conducted in 2009 showed that the sharp decline in the island's population in the 19th century was linked to ecological changes and European diseases, which may have also influenced the traditions of creating statues. The restoration and study of the statues continue, and organizations such as UNESCO actively support the preservation of this unique cultural heritage. Nevertheless, despite all efforts, the local residents continue to face challenges related to climate change, which threaten both the statues and the island's ecosystem. Today, in particular, the work of a group of archaeologists led by Dr. Tony Hoffman from the University of Utah in 2021 led to the discovery of new artifacts that provide a better understanding of the social structure and daily life of the Rapa Nui. As a result of the research, it was found that the island had complex systems of agriculture and water supply, which were necessary for sustaining life on such a remote and isolated piece of land. Considering the complex agricultural and water supply systems that sustained life on the remote island of Easter Island, the question arises of how the ancient Rapa Nui people moved the massive moai statues. These statues, carved from volcanic tuff, weighed from several tons to over 20 tons. One of the most well-known theories posits that the statues were moved using a system of rollers and ropes. Archaeological research indicates that logs could have been used as rollers to move the statues. This theory was popularized in 2003 by researcher Ben Paul, who conducted experiments moving scaled-down models of the statues using methods similar to those the Rapa Nui might have used. However, other scholars, such as Dr. Charles Stanley from Harvard University, argue that the statues could have walked in place if they were slightly tilted forward and back. This method was demonstrated in 2015 when a group of scientists reconstructed the movement of a moai model and found that the statue could move if it was gently rocked. The existence of these various theories highlights the level of engineering and organization among the Rapa Nui, who could develop complex methods to achieve their goals. Additionally, it is important to note that moving the statues required not only physical effort, but also social organization, as the process involved a large number of people. Statistical data shows that moving one statue could require up to 30 people. Research indicates that organizing this work required significant resources and time. For example, archaeological data suggests that creating one statue could take up to 10 years, indicating a high level of planning and cooperative effort. Despite this, there is no consensus on which method was most commonly used. Each theory has its proponents and opponents, and each contributes to our understanding of Rapa Nui culture and technology. In the 18th century, when Europeans first visited Easter Island, they found that many statues were left unfinished or not moved, adding to the mystery of how they were moved and what social and economic factors influenced this process. There are also theories that the movement of statues could have stopped due to the depletion of natural resources, ultimately leading to an ecological catastrophe on the island. But this question remains open for further study. In 2006, a team of archaeologists led by Dr. Norman Hook conducted excavations in the Ahu Tongariki area, where they found evidence that the statues could have been moved after their initial creation. Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui, was inhabited by Polynesian settlers around the year 1200 AD. These seafarers, renowned for their navigational skills, crossed vast distances to reach this remote island in the Pacific Ocean, located more than 3,000 kilometers from the nearest inhabited areas. Upon arrival, the settlers encountered unique ecological conditions, including limited resources and the absence of large animals, which necessitated adaptation to isolation. They began to develop agriculture, planting crops such as sweet potatoes, which became their primary food source. These settlers also developed complex irrigation methods to maximize the use of available resources. Over time, their society became more complex, with a system of governance where chiefs and priests played significant roles. Notably, by the 14th century, the islanders began constructing massive stone statues, known as moai, which served as symbols of power and ancestors, as well as indicators of social status within clans. To create and transport these statues, which weighed several tons, they employed specialized techniques such as the construction of lifting platforms and the use of rollers, indicating a high degree of coordination and engineering prowess. While theories suggest that human power and rope systems may have been used to move the statues, none of these methods have been definitively proven. Due to isolation and limited resources, the islanders also faced challenges related to overpopulation and the depletion of natural resources, which impacted their society and culture. These events led to social conflicts and changes in the societal structure, including the decline of the influence of the elite and priesthood. Notably, by the 17th century, when Europeans began visiting the island, the local population was already facing significant issues related to colonization and external influences. As a result of these changes, by the 18th century, the island's population had significantly decreased due to wars, epidemics, and slavery, leaving a profound mark on the history of this unique island. How did the inhabitants of Easter Island, known as the Rapa Nui, manage to move the massive moai statues, which weighed up to 150 tons, without any draft animals or wheels? This feat is both astonishing and inspiring. During the 15th to 17th centuries, when most of these statues were created, the island was isolated from other lands. Archaeologists believe that the Rapa Nui employed sophisticated methods to move the moai across the island, which is approximately 6,000 square kilometers in size. Research conducted in 2007 by a group of scientists led by Dr. Stephen Edwards revealed that the statues were moved using a system of rollers and long logs. Instead of wheels, the Rapa Nui used a technique known as walking, where the statue was lifted on one side and then pushed with ropes, allowing it to walk forward. This method required a large number of people, between 15 and 30, working in teams to keep the statue upright. Additionally, it was discovered that the Rapa Nui used a special bedding of grass and leaves to reduce friction between the statue and the ground, significantly easing the transportation process. It is also worth noting that some statues were installed at heights of over 100 meters above sea level, adding to the complexity of their transport. Archaeological excavations on the island, conducted since the late 20th century, have shown that the Rapa Nui used unique tool technologies, including stone chisels and hammers, to create these giant statues. Despite the lack of wheels, these people were able to create one of the most mysterious and impressive cultural legacies of humanity. The moai statues, standing on the Rano Raraku Plateau, are not only works of art, but also significant historical records of how challenging conditions and limitations can foster innovation and creativity. There are several theories about the methods used to transport moai from the Rano Raraku Plateau to their final locations. One of the most well-known theories is proposed by American archaeologist James Cook, who in the early 2000s suggested using a system of rollers. Cook argues that the islanders could have rolled the stone statues on circular logs, making their transport significantly easier. According to his calculations, moving one moai weighing around 30 tons would have required at least 200 rollers. However, this theory has been criticized as not all scientists agree that the islanders could have manufactured enough rollers from the available materials on the island. Another popular hypothesis, proposed by researchers from the University of Auckland in 2006, involves the use of ropes. Forming a team of several dozen people could have allowed the islanders to lift and pull the statues using long ropes made from plant fibers. Research shows that such ropes could have been strong and elastic, enabling them to manage the weight and maintain balance of the moai during movement. Additionally, some scientists suggest that the statues could have been transported on sleds. In 2000, archaeologist Ricardo Munoz conducted an experiment where he and his team successfully replicated the transport of a moai using simple wooden sleds, demonstrating that it was indeed possible. The experiment showed that with the right technique, large stone blocks could be moved with minimal effort. The use of a combination of these methods may have allowed the islanders to effectively transport moai despite the challenging conditions. Therefore, each of these theories has its supporters and detractors, and the question of which method was actually used remains open. Scientific research continues, and each new discovery brings us closer to understanding how the ancient inhabitants of Easter Island managed this complex task. Overall, the work involved in transporting moai required not only physical strength, but also meticulous organization, highlighting the high level of social structure and cooperation among the population. In 2012, archaeologists discovered new artifacts on the island that may shed light on these methods. The study of the decline of the society of Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, has been a subject of intense debate among historians and archaeologists. One of the main theories is the mass deforestation that began, likely in the 19th century, when the island's population reached its peak of around 7,000 people. The removal of trees necessary for building canoes and maintaining agriculture led to the degradation of the environment. A significant discovery made in 2010 showed that the carbon level in the soil had sharply increased, indicating the destruction of the ecosystem. Trees not only provided materials, but also maintained the water balance, so their disappearance resulted in a decrease in crop yields and, consequently, famine. Additionally, diseases played a role in reducing the population. The arrival of Europeans in the 17th century brought infectious diseases such as smallpox and tuberculosis, to which the local inhabitants had no immunity. By the end of the 18th century, the population had declined to 1,000 people. No less significant was the impact of slave raids, especially in the 19th century, when many Rapa Nui residents were abducted to work on plantations in Chile. In 1853, according to historians, around 1,000 people were taken off the island, which was a severe blow to the remaining population. These events led to a breakdown of the social structure that had existed on the island and weakened the ability of the local population to resist external threats. As a result, by the end of the 19th century, Rapa Nui became a symbol of a disappearing culture, where traditions and customs began to fade under the pressure of external factors. In the 12th century, when the island was open to Europeans, it was already experiencing a crisis, and many artifacts, such as moai, became abandoned, which also indicates a change in the social structure and the loss of cultural identity. These geoglyphs, created between 400 BCE and 600 CE, were discovered in the 20th century, but their purpose remains a subject of debate among scientists and historians. The lines consist of enormous drawings on the surface of the Earth, depicting animals, plants, and geometric figures, some of which can be as long as 30 meters. The most famous figures include a hummingbird, a monkey, a lizard, and a giant pentagram, which are only visible from above. Research has shown that to create these drawings, the upper layer of soil was removed, exposing a lighter clay beneath, creating a contrast with the surrounding landscape. The largest drawings, such as the giant hummingbird, are not only artistic expressions, but may also serve as astronomical maps, as some lines are aligned with the sun's rising and setting points on specific days of the year. Hernan de Soto have suggested that these geoglyphs could have served ritual purposes for ancient peoples, such as the Nazca culture, known for their advanced knowledge in astronomy and agriculture. Some researchers also propose that the lines could have been used as pathways for ritual processions, supported by the discovery of ceramics and other artifacts near these lines. The elevation at which the lines are located ranges from 400 to 800 meters above sea level, which may be related to their astronomical purpose, as these heights provide a better view of the sky. 80% of all the lines are within a 30-kilometer radius of the city of Nazca, making this region a true archaeological treasure trove. In 1983, the Nazca lines were inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List, recognizing their cultural and historical significance. Despite the unknown technologies used to create these giant drawings, some scientists suggest that ancient Peruvians may have used simple tools like ropes and sticks to ensure their accuracy. These geoglyphs attract the attention not only of historians, but also of tourists from around the world, contributing to the local economy, although this also raises concerns about the preservation of these unique monuments. In recent years, researchers have begun using modern technologies such as drones and laser scanning to study the Nazca lines and their surroundings in greater detail, which may reveal new insights into their purpose and significance for ancient civilizations. 80% of the geoglyphs remain unexplored, leaving many questions unanswered about the Nazca culture and their unique artistic achievements. There are several theories about the purpose of the Nazca lines, which continue to spark debate among scientists and historians. One of the most widely accepted theories suggests that these geoglyphs had a religious significance. For instance, researcher Paul Kosok, in his book Mystic Geography of the Nazca Lines, published in 2003, argues that the lines were part of rituals dedicated to the worship of gods. He points to lines leading to water sources and places where local residents collected rainwater, which could indicate their role as pilgrimage paths. Another theory, proposed by archaeologist Maria Reyes, posits that the lines served as astronomical markers. In her work, The Stars of Nazca, published in 2006, she describes how some lines could point to the sunrise and sunset on specific days of the year, such as the winter solstice. She also emphasizes that geoglyphs, like the giant lizard, could be connected to astronomical observations, indicating the high level of astronomical knowledge among the Nazca people. Among the supporters of the astronomical theory is researcher James E. Greaves, who in 2001 conducted a study comparing the arrangement of the lines with the positions of stars in the constellation Orion, asserting that this confirms their connection to celestial phenomena. However, not only religious and astronomical aspects attract researchers' attention. There are also views that the lines could have been used for navigation, helping ancient inhabitants to orient themselves in the complex landscape of Peru. Archaeologist José Miguel Castro, in his article Lines as Navigation Markers, published in 2008, asserts that the geoglyphs could have served as landmarks for travelers, which is supported by the fact that many of them are located near water sources and other important life-sustaining places. These theories highlight the diversity of interpretations and the need for a deeper study of the Nazca geoglyphs, which continue to be a mystery for scientists. 80% of the geoglyphs remain unstudied, and each new analysis can provide more insight into the Nazca culture and their unique artistic expression. The scientific debates surrounding the Nazca lines demonstrate how challenging it is to decipher the codes of ancient cultures, for whom these images may have had entirely different meanings. Research continues, and new technologies, such as laser radar imaging, help to reveal previously unnoticed elements of the geoglyphs. In 2019, Japanese scientists used this method to discover additional lines, which again raised questions about their purpose and significance. The culture of Nazca, which existed on the territory of modern southern Peru from the 1st century BC to the 8th century AD, is known for its remarkable achievements in ceramics, textiles, and religious practices. Their ceramics, distinguished by high quality and a wide variety of forms, were adorned with bright geometric patterns and animal images, such as lizards and birds. For example, ceramic vessels found in the Nazca region sometimes took the shape of animals and were used in rituals, highlighting their religious significance. One of the most famous types of ceramics is the black and glossy ware, which they used for food storage and ritual purposes. It is believed that Nazca used red and black pigments, derived from local plants and minerals, to create these bright patterns. Nazca textiles also deserve attention. Archaeologists have found samples of brightly colored fabrics used for clothing and ritual garments. These fabrics were often decorated with complex patterns that could symbolize a connection to nature and divine forces. Nazca was also renowned for their religious practices, including rituals related to the veneration of water deities, which was crucial for their agriculture in the arid climate of the region. They built temples and sanctuaries where they performed rituals aimed at appeasing the gods and invoking rain. In particular, archaeologists discovered in the 18th century a sanctuary in the region of Paracas, used for sacrifices, as evidenced by the remains of animals found there. These practices underscore the importance of water resources for Nazca, which is also reflected in their geoglyphs, which may have served not only as artistic works, but also as ritual symbols connected to their beliefs. In 2009, researchers from the University of Los Angeles conducted studies that showed some of these geoglyphs could be linked to astronomical events, opening new horizons for understanding their culture. As can Mario Delgado argue that their culture was oriented towards interacting with the surrounding environment, which is reflected in their artistic and religious practices. Researchers around the world continue to debate the purpose of the Nazca lines, which are massive geoglyphs carved into the Peruvian desert. One of the leading theories suggests that these lines served as paths for ceremonies related to local religion. For instance, anthropologist Dr. Emily Martin posits that the lines could have been used as pilgrimage routes, where local residents would gather to perform rituals connected to deities associated with fertility and water. In this context, the lines are not just geometric figures, but also significant symbolic connections to nature and the cosmos, reflecting the beliefs of the ancient Nazca. Other researchers, such as Dr. Larry Quinn, argue that these lines also served as astronomical markers. For example, some of them are aligned precisely with the sunrise and sunset on important days for the agricultural calendar, such as the winter and summer solstices. This highlights how ancient peoples used their astronomical knowledge to plan agricultural activities, which in turn influenced their survival. Moreover, some geoglyphs, like the famous monkey figure, may be linked to the observation of the night sky, where astronomical phenomena like star clusters played a crucial role in cultural practices. Specialist in ancient civilizations, Dr. Stephen Johnson emphasizes that the lines could have also served as elements of pilgrimage, uniting various communities around common rituals and beliefs. In this context, the lines would have acted as guides for those seeking to reach sacred places, which is supported by archaeological findings nearby, where traces of ancient trails indicate mass gatherings of people. These assumptions are further bolstered by the fact that some of the lines are directed towards significant natural elements, such as mountains or water sources, which could also have been connected to ritual practices. Furthermore, in recent decades, with the help of technologies like aerial photography and GIS, researchers have discovered new geoglyphs, adding additional layers to the understanding of Nazca culture. For example, in 2006, a team of researchers led by Dr. Cristina Castillo discovered previously unknown lines that, in their opinion, could complement existing theories about the ritual significance of the geoglyphs. These new findings underscore the importance of further research and discussions about the meaning of the Nazca lines, which remain enigmatic mysteries of the ancient world. Maria Reiche, a German archaeologist and pioneer in the study of the Nazca lines, played a pivotal role in understanding these enigmatic geoglyphs. In the mid-20th century, particularly in the 1940s and 1950s, Reiche conducted extensive fieldwork in the Nazca Desert, documenting and analyzing over 80 geoglyphs, including the famous figures of a monkey, hummingbird, and giant spider. She proposed that the lines constituted a giant astronomical calendar used by ancient cultures to track solar and lunar cycles. Reiche observed that many of the geoglyphs were oriented towards significant astronomical events, such as the summer and winter solstices, and hypothesized that the local inhabitants used these lines for agricultural purposes, such as determining plant. Her research included detailed measurements and observations, noting that some lines extended for tens of kilometers and varied in width from 3 to 5 meters, indicating a high level of planning and organization. Reiche also employed specialized tools like compasses and theodolites to more accurately measure angles and orientation. As a result of her work, a comprehensive archive of data was created, including maps and photographs of the geoglyphs, which further fueled interest in this phenomenon. Despite criticism from some scientists, Reiche continued to advocate for her position, asserting that the Nazca Lines could have been used for star and planet observation, making them not only cultural but also astronomical heritage. In 1991, her research was further validated by modern methods such as aerial photography and satellite technology, which demonstrated the complexity and scale of the geoglyphs. Scientific debates surrounding Reiche's theory continue to this day, and her contribution to the study of the Nazca Lines remains invaluable. Additionally, Christopher Edwards, who in 2001 presented his findings on the possible astronomical function of the lines at a conference in Lima. The preservation of the Nazca Lines is becoming increasingly urgent due to human activity. Since the early 20th century, when researchers began actively studying these mysterious geoglyphs, the number of tourists visiting Peru has skyrocketed. According to the National Institute of Culture of Peru in 2018, over 130,000 tourists visited this site, leading to a significant increase in the load on the fragile ecosystem of the region. One of the main threats is the construction of roads nearby. For instance, in 2001, the completion of the Pan American Highway increased accessibility to the areas with geoglyphs, but also the number of vehicles passing by daily. As a result, soil erosion and the destruction of small elements that make up the lines are observed. Additionally, local residents sometimes use these land areas for agriculture, which also damages the ancient drawings. In 2005, a group of scientists from Boston University, led by Dr. Elizabeth Hart, discovered that in some places geoglyphs were disappearing due to the plowing of fields. Modern research shows that even small changes in the environment caused by human activity can have a destructive impact on the preservation of the lines. For example, in 2006, a group of Peruvian archaeologists raised the question of the need to create a protective zone around the lines to stop further destruction. However, even with this initiative, the situation remains complex, as local authorities often face a conflict of interests. On the one hand, it is necessary to preserve cultural heritage, and on the other hand, to support the economic growth of the region based on tourism and agriculture. As a result, in the 21st century, the Nazca Lines continue to be at risk, and researchers feel the urgent need for joint efforts to protect them. In 2019, an international group of scientists from several countries, including Japan and Germany, proposed conducting comprehensive research using drones for monitoring changes on the ground to better understand how human activity affects these ancient artifacts. The Göbekli Tepe complex, located in southeastern Turkey, is one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. It was discovered in 1994 when a local farmer accidentally stumbled upon stone structures that were later studied by a group of archaeologists led by Professor Klaus Schmidt of the German Archaeological Institute. Göbekli Tepe dates back to approximately the 9th millennium BCE, making it the oldest known temple complex in the world, predating famous Egyptian pyramids and Mesopotamian ziggurats by several thousand years. The complex consists of numerous circular and oval stone structures containing massive monoliths that can reach a height of 5 meters and weigh up to 10 tons. These monoliths are adorned with intricate carvings depicting animals such as lions, snakes, and birds, indicating a high level of artistic skill among ancient people. One of the distinctive features of Göbekli Tepe is that it was not just a place of worship, but also likely served as a center for social gatherings and rituals, challenging our understanding of early human societies. Research suggests that the construction of this complex required a significant amount of resources and collective effort, challenging the traditional view that such complex structures could only have emerged after the advent of agriculture. In fact, findings at this site include not only stone constructions, but also numerous artifacts, such as tools that indicate a well-developed stoneworking technology. It is believed that the complex served not only religious purposes, but also as a meeting place for tribes and the exchange of cultural ideas. Additionally, Göbekli Tepe has become a starting point for new research related to other similar sites in the region, such as Nevaluchori and Çatalhöyük, which also exhibit signs of early religious cults. However, despite these discoveries, the complex remains partially unexplored, and many details of its purpose and use remain a mystery to scientists. Currently, Göbekli Tepe is under the protection of UNESCO and attracts the attention of scientists and tourists from around the world, contributing to the popularization of archaeology and increasing interest in ancient cultures. The need for further research on this unique monument is becoming increasingly evident, as it may provide insights into how human society evolved in its earliest forms. As research continues, archaeologists hope to uncover more secrets hidden beneath the layers of earth in this area. Göbekli Tepe, located in Turkey, became a sensation in archaeology after its discovery in the early 1990s. In particular, in 2006, archaeologist David Fletcher from the University of Chicago and his team began excavations at this site, and soon they uncovered impressive stone circles with pillars reaching up to 5 meters in height. These pillars, made of limestone, feature reliefs of animals such as lions, snakes, and birds, raising many questions about the cultural and religious practices of the people who created this monument. Debates about Göbekli Tepe's exact purpose include whether it was a cultic center or a public space. The absence of any signs of habitation at this site challenges the traditional view that such structures were built for living. Additionally, radiocarbon dating shows that Göbekli Tepe was constructed around the 9th millennium BCE, placing it on par with other early civilizations like the Sumerians and Egyptians. Research indicates that the people who created Göbekli Tepe may not have practiced agriculture, as this site predates known agricultural cultures, challenging conventional theories about the development of agrarian societies. Another significant aspect is that Göbekli Tepe was abandoned around the 8th millennium BCE, leading to numerous theories about the reasons for this decision. Some scholars, such as Professor Neil Ferguson, propose that climate changes could have affected the region's habitability. Meanwhile, other researchers, like Dr. Richard Doll, suggest that it could be related to changes in social organization and the transition to a more sedentary lifestyle. A key aspect of Göbekli Tepe's research is its monumental constructions, which require significant effort to transport and install the stones, indicating organized labor and possibly a social hierarchy. Some of the pillars bear reliefs that could be interpreted as part of ritual practices, possibly related to hunting or animal spirit worship. This discovery offers a new perspective on understanding early human communities, their beliefs and social structures. Currently, in the 2020s, archaeologists discovered additional circles and fragments, adding more mysteries to this site, confirming that Göbekli Tepe is not just an archaeological find, but a historical phenomenon that continues to captivate scholars and history enthusiasts. Why did people in the Neolithic era, around the 10th millennium BCE, begin constructing such monumental structures as Göbekli Tepe? This question has been a subject of debate among many researchers. While most people were engaged in hunting and gathering, a group of people in this region, now part of modern Turkey, started creating massive stone circles weighing several tons, which required significant effort for transportation and installation. This raises questions about the motivations behind such a grand project. Some scientists, such as archaeologist David Lake from the University of Washington, suggest that the construction could have been driven by religious or ritual needs. Indeed, numerous symbolic animal images, including lions, lizards, and birds, have been found in these structures, which may indicate a cult of animals. Other researchers, like Professors Klaus Schmidt and Emre Ergun, emphasize that such a large-scale project could have united different people, fostering social connections and strengthening the community. It may have marked the beginning of a transition to a settled lifestyle, as people began to recognize the benefits of collective labor. Archaeological excavations show that hundreds of people worked at Göbekli Tepe, requiring not only physical strength, but also organizational skills, indicating a high level of social structure. Furthermore, research conducted in the 20th century shows that the climate in the region was more humid and favorable for agriculture during that period, which could have contributed to a more stable way of life and an increase in population. Establishing permanent settlements near such sanctuaries could have facilitated the further development of agriculture and animal husbandry, which in turn could have driven the need for such monumental structures. At Göbekli Tepe, remains of stone tools were also found, indicating that people used complex technologies for stone processing, further highlighting their high level of skill and organization. It is intriguing that this site was abandoned around the 8th millennium BCE, raising even more questions about the reasons for its closure. Perhaps changes in climate or increased competition for resources led people to leave this unique monument. In any case, Göbekli Tepe remains an important object of study, as it challenges traditional notions of human civilization development. Archaeological finds, such as more than 50 stone pillars reaching 5 meters in height, show that this place was not just a temple, but also a center of active social life. The methods of construction used at Göbekli Tepe, one of the most mysterious archaeological sites, have captivated researchers for several decades. Scientists hypothesize that the construction of this complex involved the use of stone chisels made from various types of stone, as well as flint tools that allowed for the processing and shaping of massive stone blocks. For instance, during excavations that began in 2010, archaeologists discovered flint tools estimated to be around 12,000 years old. These tools, according to experts, could have been used for creating indentations in stone and extracting necessary blocks. Researcher George Bailey from the University of Hartford describes how, over thousands of years, people could refine their stoneworking skills, transitioning from simple tools to more complex and specialized ones. This enabled them not only to quarry stone, but also to shape it into the desired forms for construction. At Göbekli Tepe, stone blocks weighing several tons have been found, raising the question of how ancient people could move such massive structures. One theory suggests the use of a system of rollers, but there is insufficient evidence to support this hypothesis. Archaeological findings indicate that simple mechanisms and methods were employed during construction, possibly including the use of wooden structures for lifting and moving stones. Additionally, excavations at the site show that workers could shape stones on site, significantly easing the process. Research indicates that Göbekli Tepe features numerous toothed and rounded forms, indicating a high level of craftsmanship. Scientists also suggest that during construction, command methods were used, with groups of people working together to accomplish complex tasks. It is important to note that such a level of cooperation implies a developed social structure, which challenges the notion that such societies were exclusively primitive. For example, in ancient Egypt, the construction of pyramids involved mass labor, as evidenced by historical records of thousands of workers involved in the construction. However, unlike the pyramids, which were primarily built for the burial of pharaohs, Göbekli Tepe appears to have served ritualistic functions, adding another layer of complexity to understanding its significance. Findings such as carved animal and symbol images on stone blocks also emphasize the importance of ritualistic aspects in the lives of those who built this complex. Research shows that many of these images share similarities with those found in other places, such as Hassan Cave in modern-day Iraq, which may indicate cultural connections between various ancient civilizations. Therefore, it is important to consider that Göbekli Tepe was not an isolated project, but rather part of a broader cultural context of its time, which included the exchange of ideas and technologies among different groups of people. Göbekli Tepe raises numerous questions about the social organization and religious beliefs of ancient societies that existed more than 10,000 years ago. How exactly did these ancient people organize their lives? Research indicates that large groups of people could gather at this site, suggesting the presence of a complex social structure. Archaeological finds, such as obelisks and stone circles, suggest that they could have served as places for rituals and gatherings. Professor Klaus Schmidt, the leading researcher at Göbekli Tepe, asserts that this place could have been a center not only for ritual life, but also for social life, where people exchanged not only goods, but also knowledge. Scientists also wonder what religious beliefs could have existed in this society. Some of the found artifacts, such as animal figurines and human figures, indicate a possible cult of ancestors or animals. For example, a lion figurine found during one of the excavations could suggest that the ancient people had some symbolic connection with animals, possibly totemic beliefs. But how did they perceive the world around them? It seems they could have considered nature to be animate, which is confirmed by animal images on stone slabs. These images are often accompanied by complex patterns that could symbolize various aspects of their beliefs. Hunting and gathering may have remained the primary sources of food, which could have influenced their social organization and rituals. The social structure was likely based on kinship and cooperation, allowing them to survive in a complex ecosystem. This idea is supported by finds indicating joint efforts in the construction of megalithic structures. It is also important to understand that Göbekli Tepe is located in a region that was already a significant crossroads for migrations and the exchange of cultural ideas. How did this influence their beliefs and social structure? Archaeologists ponder how different groups could have interacted with each other. Perhaps this place served not only as a site for rituals, but also as a trade hub where people exchanged not only goods, but also cultural practices. Various finds, such as tools and ornaments, indicate the diversity of crafts and skills. For example, stone tools found during excavations demonstrate a high level of skill in stoneworking. All this paints a picture of a complex society where religious beliefs were intertwined with social organization and economic practices. However, questions remain about how they organized their rituals and what specific ceremonies were conducted at this mysterious place. The study of Göbekli Tepe continues to attract the attention of scientists, and with each new discovery, we get closer to understanding how these ancient people lived and what they believed. Currently, archaeologists have discovered more than 40 stone structures that were likely used for ritual purposes. The Baalbek complex in Lebanon, also known as Heliopolis, is one of the most impressive and mysterious archaeological sites in the world, attracting the attention of both historians and tourists. This complex was built during the Roman era, and its main structures date back to the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. One of the most notable objects in the complex is the Temple of Jupiter, which was once the largest temple in the Roman world, with its columns reaching a height of 21 meters. Inside the temple, fragments of mosaics and reliefs have been preserved, depicting the religious rituals of ancient Romans. However, the most intriguing feature is the so-called Stone of the Pregnant Woman, located near the complex. This massive stone weighs around 1 million tons and is considered the largest stone ever worked by humans. Its length is approximately 22 meters, its width about 6 meters, and its thickness nearly 5 meters. According to one legend, the stone was intended for the construction of the Temple of Jupiter, but it was never moved. The stone is said to have been named after a myth that a woman who touches it will become pregnant, highlighting its significance in local culture and beliefs. Archaeologists still cannot definitively explain how ancient builders planned to move such a massive object, as it would have required advanced technologies and a large workforce. Some scientists suggest that inclined planes and rollers could have been used, but the actual methods remain speculative. This site also attracts researchers due to the many mysteries surrounding its construction and purpose. Additionally, Baalbek was a significant religious center for various cultures over the centuries, including the Phoenicians and Romans, who left their marks on the region's architecture and culture. Many of these structures were built using locally quarried limestone, which was carefully processed and used in construction. The awe-inspiring columns and massive walls testify to the skill of ancient builders, who were able to create such monumental structures that have endured for centuries. Today, the Baalbek complex is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and continues to draw tourists and researchers from around the world who seek to unravel its mysteries. The stone of the pregnant woman in Baalbek, weighing more than 1,000 tons, has been the subject of numerous speculations and theories. Some researchers believe that it was part of a grand plan by ancient Romans to build a massive temple or another monumental structure. According to ancient Roman engineers, such as Vitruvius in his work 10 Books on Architecture, emphasized the importance of using large blocks to create stable structures. However, as practice shows, the technologies of that time did not always allow for the realization of ambitious plans. Other researchers, such as Professor of Archaeology at the University of Beirut Ahmed Hosni, claim that the stone of the pregnant woman was left in place because its transportation proved technically impossible. It is worth noting that the stone not only has impressive dimensions, but also a complex structure, making its transportation extremely difficult. Local legends also add an air of mystery to this object. According to one story, the stone was intended for use in the construction of the Temple of Jupiter, but the gods, displeased with human plans, decided to leave it. A comparison with other large megaliths, such as Stonehenge in England, shows that ancient civilizations often faced similar problems in moving stones, which led to the creation of such monuments as the stone of the pregnant woman. In addition to these theories, it is worth mentioning that in the 12th century, during the Crusades, the stone became the object of interest for European conquerors who sought ways to use it for their purposes, but were unable to move it. This indicates that even in later periods, when technologies had significantly improved, the stone remained unmovable for many. Thus, the stone of the pregnant woman is not only an architectural object, but also a cultural symbol that reflects the ancient civilizations striving for greatness and simultaneously demonstrates the limits of human capabilities. Furthermore, research conducted in 2012 showed that the stone has a high degree of mineralization, which confirms its age and significance. These data were obtained as a result of analyzing samples collected from the surface of the stone and provide a deeper understanding of its origin and connection to the surrounding environment. Baalbek, located in modern Lebanon, is renowned for its magnificent temples and architectural achievements, which were created under the influence of the Roman Empire in the 1st century AD. This city, known in ancient times as Heliopolis, became a significant religious and cultural center when the Romans began its active construction. During the reign of Emperor Augustus, starting from the 30s BC, Baalbek became a key point on trade routes connecting the east and west. At this time, the Romans began building grand temples dedicated to their gods to assert their power and culture in the conquered territories. The most famous of these structures is the Temple of Jupiter, which was built in the early 2nd century. It is impressive for its colossal size. The height of the columns reaches 20 meters, and the total volume of stone blocks is around 7,000 cubic meters. These blocks were cut from local limestone and transported over long distances using complex engineering solutions such as roller systems and ramps. Roman engineers of the time employed advanced technologies, including the use of arches and vaults, which allowed them to create not only sturdy but also aesthetically pleasing buildings. Inside the Temple of Jupiter stood a statue of the god made of gold and precious stones, emphasizing the importance of this cult for the Romans. Additionally, temples of Venus and Mercury were built in Baalbek, which also distinguished themselves by their scale and detail. One of the bright examples of Roman influence in architecture is the use of monumental staircases leading to the temples, creating an impression of grandeur. As a result of Roman rule, Baalbek became not only an architectural marvel, but also a symbol of the might of the Roman Empire in the East, continuing to attract the attention of researchers and tourists to this day. In the 20th century, Baalbek gained even more significance due to the annual music and theatre festival held against the backdrop of ancient ruins, further highlighting its cultural heritage. In this context, it is important to note that Baalbek has not only preserved its historical value, but has also become a place for studying Roman engineering, architecture, and religious practices. In recent years, archaeologists have continued to discover new artifacts that provide a better understanding of how Roman technologies and culture interacted with local traditions and customs. In Baalbek, Lebanon, some of the most impressive and monumental stone structures of antiquity have been preserved, including the famous temples of Jupiter and Venus. Scholars and archaeologists continue to debate the methods used to transport and process the massive stone blocks that form these structures. One of the most popular theories suggests the use of a system of ropes and rollers. According to Dr. Ammar Hussein, who published his work on Roman construction methods in 2018, stone blocks weighing up to 800 tons could be moved using large wooden rollers that reduced friction. For the same purpose, ropes made from plant fibers were used, allowing work crews to effectively manage the weight of the blocks. In ancient times, historians estimate that between 500 and 1,000 people were needed to perform such tasks, often under extreme conditions. Workers could use physical principles, such as the lever principle, to lift heavy blocks by placing them under the base of the stones. Moreover, some researchers, like Professor John Stewart, claim that in Baalbek, so-called rollers were used, large cylindrical logs placed under the stones to facilitate their movement. These rollers made it possible to move blocks over uneven surfaces, which was characteristic of the terrain around Baalbek. In 2015, archaeologists discovered evidence that the Romans used wooden sleds to slide stones across surfaces during their transportation. Given the size and weight of the blocks, each operation had to be meticulously planned, indicating a high level of organizational skill. It is worth noting that many of these methods could have been adopted from local peoples, highlighting the cultural and technological exchange in this region. For instance, during the Roman period, local workers could have contributed their knowledge of traditional stoneworking techniques, which also contributed to the construction of such monumental structures. Local quarries, located just a few kilometers from Baalbek, provided access to high-quality limestone used in construction. There are even theories that some blocks could have been cut directly on site and then moved, significantly simplifying the process. Each of these theories sheds new light on how ancient civilizations could undertake such colossal projects. But despite numerous studies, a definitive answer to the question of how Baalbek was built remains elusive. How could the ancient builders of Baalbek create such heavy objects as the stone of the pregnant woman, weighing around 11,000 tons, while working in the high-altitude conditions of the Lebanese mountains? This massive block, originally part of the Temple of Jupiter, was quarried from a site located several kilometers from the construction site. There are numerous hypotheses about how the ancient masters could transport such colossal stones, considering that modern technologies did not exist at the time. One of the most popular theories is the use of wooden sleds and rollers, which significantly reduced friction. Research indicates that up to 200 people could have been involved in moving the stone, working in coordinated teams and using simple but effective mechanisms. Additionally, in the high-altitude conditions, where the air is thin and temperatures fluctuate, builders had to consider the impact of these factors on physical exertion. Scientific works, such as those by Professor Norman Hunter of the University of Toronto, confirm that the ancient builders could have used methods based on knowledge of mechanics and physics available at the time. For example, they could have used a system of inclined planes to lift the stones to the height of the temple, which was nearly 20 meters high. In addition, for processing such massive blocks, copper tools were used, which could create precise cuts and shapes. Archaeological finds in the vicinity of Baalbek confirm the presence of remains of copper tools, indicating their use in construction. Furthermore, these stones were not just roughly hewn, but also adorned with reliefs and inscriptions, demonstrating the high level of skill of the stonemasons of that time. Another important aspect is that the temple was built during the reign of Roman Emperor Augustus, starting at the end of the 1st century BC, which implies the availability of a large workforce and resources. This structure became not only an architectural marvel, but also a symbol of the power of the Roman Empire, which was striving to demonstrate its achievements in the fields of construction and engineering. Moreover, modern technologies such as ground-penetrating radar are now being used to study these ancient structures, and perhaps they will shed light on some aspects of the construction that remain a mystery. Taking all these facts into account, it can be confidently said that the construction of such monumental objects required not only physical strength, but also outstanding skills in engineering and management. In Baalbek, Lebanon, during the 1st to 3rd centuries of our era, colossal temples were constructed, and one of the most impressive stones used in these structures was the stone of the pregnant woman, weighing approximately 1,800 tons. Researchers have proposed several theories about how ancient builders could transport this massive block from a quarry located more than a kilometer away from the construction site. One of the most popular hypotheses involves the use of rollers. Archaeologists such as Dr. Mohammed Hussein of the Beirut University suggest that the stone could have been placed on wooden rollers, which would have significantly eased its movement. For instance, ancient Egyptians used similar methods to move enormous blocks during the construction of pyramids. In addition to rollers, ancient builders might have used ropes made from plant fibers, strong enough to hold such heavy loads. There are even speculations that special sleds were used, which could distribute weight and minimize friction with the surface. These sleds could have been lined with wet leather sheets to reduce resistance. Historical records also mention other methods, such as using lubricants like oil or water to facilitate movement. Notably, Baalbek became a significant religious center, and the construction of such large-scale structures was necessary to demonstrate the power and wealth of the Roman Empire in the region. Modern research shows that despite all efforts, many stones were not delivered to the construction site, and many unfinished blocks can still be found in the quarry. For example, archaeologists discovered a stone approximately 33 meters long that was likely intended for construction but remained in the quarry. Such findings indicate that ancient transportation technologies were limited, and each such project required immense resources and time. In this context, it is worth noting that even modern methods of transporting such massive objects remain complex challenges for engineers and logisticians. The complex of Sacsayhuaman is located near Cusco, the capital of the ancient Inca Empire, and is one of the most impressive architectural structures that have survived from the Inca era. Construction of Sacsayhuaman began around the 1420s and was completed during the reign of Emperor Pachacuti. who significantly expanded the Inca Empire. The complex consists of massive stone walls constructed from monolithic blocks, each weighing up to 100 tons. These blocks were cut with such precision that even a sharp knife cannot pass between them. Archaeologists still cannot fully explain how the Incas managed to transport such heavy stones from a quarry on the mountain Rumicolca, more than 20 kilometers away. Sacsayhuaman covers an area of about 30 hectares and includes several levels of terraces used for both military and ritual purposes. The wall, located at an altitude of more than 2,000 meters above sea level, Sacsayhuaman occupied a strategically important position, controlling the Cusco Valley and access to other key regions of the Inca Empire. During the Spanish conquest in the 16th century, much of the stone was used to build churches and buildings in Cusco, but some sections still awe with their power and scale. In the 20th century, the complex was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and since then, active efforts have been made to restore and preserve it. Today, an important aspect is that every year, the Inti Raymi festival, dedicated to the sun god who played a key role in Inca life, is held in Sacsayhuaman. This festival attracts not only local residents, but also tourists from around the world, highlighting the cultural significance of the complex for contemporary society. The restoration and preservation of Sacsayhuaman continue, and archaeologists continue to explore its mysteries, hoping to find new evidence of how the Incas built such monumental structures using the limited technologies of their time. In recent years, research has also begun on the hydraulic system that may have been used to manage water in this high-altitude region, demonstrating the Incas' engineering skills and their ability to adapt to challenging environmental conditions. There are several theories about the methods used by the Incas to build the massive complex of Sacsayhuaman, which help us understand how they were able to construct this monumental structure without modern technology. One of the most widely accepted theories suggests that a large workforce was employed to move the heavy stones. Archaeological evidence indicates that tens of thousands of people may have been involved in the construction. For instance, historian José de Acosta reported that in the 15th century, the Incas could mobilize up to 30,000 workers for major projects like Sacsayhuaman. These workers could be organized into groups, each with specific tasks, allowing for efficient labor distribution. It is also believed that the Incas used ropes made from plant fibers to move the stones. These ropes could be quite strong, enabling them to lift and lower heavy blocks weighing up to 100 tons. Special systems of blocks and pulleys were likely used to reduce the effort required to raise the stones. Additionally, ramps or inclined planes were probably employed to transport the stones to great heights. Archaeologist Ricardo Kawa believes that the Incas constructed these ramps from earth and stones, which were then covered with a fine material to facilitate movement. It is also worth noting that the Incas used stones with natural shapes, which made their fitting and assembly easier, as the stones could be perfectly matched to one another. Thus, the construction methods of Sacsayhuaman demonstrate the Incas' high level of engineering and organizational skills, which allowed them to create one of the most impressive architectural structures of their time. Currently, it was built in the 15th century during the reign of Emperor Pachacuti, who founded the city of Cusco as the capital of his empire. Construction of this monumental structure began around 1448 and continued until the end of the century, underscoring its importance in Inca history. The fortress occupies a strategically important position on a hill overlooking Cusco and served both as a defensive structure and a ritual center. The architectural features of Sacsayhuaman are remarkable for their complexity. The walls of the fortress rise to a height of up to 19 meters and are composed of massive stone blocks, some of which weigh more than 100 tons. These blocks were quarried from nearby quarries located about 5 kilometers from the fortress and transported using simple yet effective technologies. The unique masonry technique used by the Incas ensured the stability of the structures, allowing Sacsayhuaman to withstand even the earthquakes that periodically shake the region. Notably, each stone was fitted with such precision that it is almost impossible to insert a knife blade between them, demonstrating the high level of craftsmanship and engineering understanding of the Incas. The fortress also served as a site for important religious ceremonies and was a center of sun worship. Archaeological research conducted since the late 20th century has uncovered numerous artifacts, including ceramics, tools, and ritual objects, confirming the use of Sacsayhuaman as a sacred place. In 2005, a group of archaeologists led by Dr. Jose Lopez discovered near the fortress stone constructions that they believe could have served as sacrificial altars. This discovery highlights the multifunctionality and significance of Sacsayhuaman in Inca culture. Approximately 30% of the fortress's area is dedicated to ritual fields, indicating that this place was not only a defensive but also a spiritual center. It is no surprise, therefore, that Sacsayhuaman was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1983, further emphasizing its historical and cultural value to humanity. Ascending Sacsayhuaman attracts many tourists today, and various cultural events are held here annually, helping to preserve the Inca heritage and introduce new generations to their history. Restoration and conservation efforts continue to ensure that this unique heritage is preserved for future generations. To begin with, Sacsayhuaman, located near Cusco, was built in the 15th century. The walls of the fortress consist of massive stone blocks weighing several hundred tons. American archaeologist Robert M. Drew described how the Incas used a technique called friction to move these heavy stones. For instance, stones were moved along inclined planes and wooden rollers were used as wheels. It is also worth noting that the Incas frequently used collective strength. Workers would join forces to move heavy blocks together. This requires coordination and clear communication, indicating a high level of organizational skill. Moreover, the Incas had an excellent knowledge of the terrain and used natural landscape features to facilitate transportation. For example, when moving stones from one hill to another, the Incas could use natural slopes and gullies. Additionally, the Incas were master builders and could cut stones with remarkable precision, achieving perfect joints between them without using cement. This method also required significant effort and skill. There are hypotheses that the Incas could have used sound waves to facilitate the movement of stones. Some researchers believe they could have used specific frequencies to reduce friction between the stone and the ground. Such methods raise many questions about their technologies and engineering prowess. For example, research conducted in 2018 showed that the Incas could have used various tools to process stones on site, reducing the need to transport already formed blocks. The Olmec civilization, which flourished on the territory of modern Mexico from approximately 3000 BCE to the 6th century BCE, is considered one of the first highly developed cultures in Mesoamerica. It left behind numerous monuments, but the most impressive are the colossal heads carved from basalt. These heads, weighing from 8 to 30 tons, reach heights of up to 3 meters and depict faces, possibly of rulers or gods. Each of these sculptures is unique, indicating the high level of skill of Olmec artists and their deep connection to religious and social structures. The first such heads were discovered at the end of the 19th century in the San Lorenzo region, where archaeologist Harry Benson found 8 heads dating back to around 800 BCE. These finds laid the foundation for further research, and in the early 20th century, archaeological excavations at La Venta revealed more such monuments, demonstrating that the Olmecs actively used stone blocks to create monumental sculptures. It is important to note that for the transportation of these massive heads, complex technologies were employed, including wooden sleds and rollers, which testify to the high level of engineering thought of the Olmecs. Some researchers, such as Mary Edwards, believe that these heads could symbolize religious rituals or serve as political symbols, although their exact purpose remains a subject of debate. The Olmecs not only created these monumental heads, but also developed a system of hieroglyphs and early forms of calendars, making them one of the foundational cultures for subsequent Mesoamerican civilizations such as the Maya and Aztecs. It is important to remember that, although the Olmec culture disappeared by the 6th century BCE, it left behind a legacy that became the basis for further development in the region. For example, many elements of their culture, such as the veneration of certain deities and the use of certain architectural styles, were adopted by other peoples. Currently, the protection and study of Olmec monuments continue, and in 2023, within the framework of the Program for the Preservation of Cultural Heritage in Mexico, measures were taken to protect these findings from the effects of the environment, underscoring the importance of these objects for understanding the ancient history of the region. The question of transporting Olmec heads remains one of the most enigmatic in Mexican archaeology. These massive stone sculptures, weighing up to 20 tons or more, were created by the Olmecs between the 13th century BC and the 6th century AD. Various theories exist regarding how ancient peoples moved such heavy structures over long distances. One of the most widely accepted hypotheses involves the use of wooden logs as rollers, significantly easing the movement process. Archaeologist David Castaneda, who has studied this issue, suggests that the Olmecs could have used a system of rollers to move the heads across the ground, requiring substantial effort and a well-organized workforce. This method likely involved the collective effort of many people, indicating a developed social structure within the Olmec society. Additionally, some scholars believe that the Olmecs may have used canoes to transport the heads along rivers. This hypothesis is based on the fact that the sculptures were carved from volcanic tuff, which, despite its weight, could be partially lifted in water. For example, the heads found in La Venta were transported over a distance of up to 100 kilometers, requiring not only physical effort but also careful logistics. Furthermore, recent research suggests that the Olmecs may have used specialized tools for stone processing, such as chisels and hammers, to reduce the weight of the sculptures before transportation. Notably, in places like San Lorenzo, traces of ancient paths have been found, which could have been used for moving the heads. These findings suggest that the Olmecs possessed significant engineering skills and a deep understanding of their region's geography. Thus, the process of transporting Olmec heads is not just a physical challenge, but also a cultural phenomenon that underscores the power and organization of this ancient civilization. It is crucial to recognize that each of these theories has its own advantages and disadvantages. And until more compelling evidence is found, the question remains open. Archaeological discoveries in this context continue to astonish, and new findings can fundamentally alter our understanding of Olmec culture. For instance, in 2018, during excavations in La Venta, fragments of ancient paths were discovered that could have been used for transportation. This was the first highly developed civilization in Mesoamerica, laying the foundations for future cultures such as the Maya and Aztecs. Their centers, like San Lorenzo and La Venta, were located in tropical lands where abundant resources fostered the development of agriculture. The Olmecs were the first to cultivate cacao, which later became the basis for the region's economy. It is also notable that Olmec culture is known for its large stone heads, weighing up to 20 tons, carved from volcanic tuff. These heads, found in places like San Lorenzo, testify to the high level of skill of Olmec sculptors. Furthermore, the Olmecs created a system of writing and used calendars that preceded those of the Maya, further emphasizing their contribution to the cultural development of the region. However, their influence continued to be felt in the cultures of other Mesoamerican peoples for centuries. Archaeological research conducted in the 20th century, such as the excavations led by archaeologist Richard Ford at La Venta, revealed that the Olmecs used advanced technologies to create their monuments, including a system of canals for drainage and water supply. The social organization of the Olmecs was a hierarchical system, with rulers and priests at the top, wielding significant power and influence. For instance, in archaeological excavations at La Venta, enormous basalt stone heads were discovered, believed to represent rulers, underscoring their importance in society. It is important to note that the Olmecs had a complex social structure, with not only rulers but also various classes of artisans and farmers who provided the society with necessary resources. The religious beliefs of the Olmecs were rich and multifaceted, with a pantheon of gods representing various aspects of nature and life. One of the most prominent deities was the rain god, who likely played a crucial role in the agricultural culture of the Olmecs, which depended on farming. Within Olmec settlements, massive ritual centers were found, such as the one discovered at San Lorenzo, where archaeologists found numerous sacrificial altars and ritual objects used for worship. For example, at San Lorenzo, stone altars and items related to the cult of the snake were discovered, indicating the significance of this symbol in their beliefs. Notably, the Olmecs employed sophisticated methods to create their ritual objects, including special stoneworking techniques and material mixtures to achieve certain effects. In some sense, Olmec culture became the foundation for later civilizations, such as the Maya and Aztecs, which adopted elements from their religious practices and social organization. Scholars like archaeologist David Grove assert that the Olmec civilization was not just a precursor, but the actual foundation for the formation of later cultures in Mesoamerica. It is not surprising, therefore, that their influence is still felt today, and many aspects of Olmec culture continue to be the subject of active research. For example, contemporary archaeologists continue to uncover new artifacts that add to our knowledge of the complex system of the Olmecs, including clay figures and ritual objects found in various archaeological layers. Olmec heads discovered on the territories of modern Mexico have sparked numerous debates among scientists and historians. One of the most popular theories suggests that these monumental sculptures are portraits of rulers of the Olmec civilization, which existed approximately from the 12th century BCE to the 4th century BCE. Scholars like Dr. Mario Molina from the National Autonomous University of Mexico argue that each head could reflect unique features of a specific ruler, highlighting the importance of individual leadership in Olmec society. These heads range in height from 1 to 3 meters and are made of basalt, making them not only impressive in size, but also labor-intensive to create. Other researchers, such as Dr. Silvia Lopez, propose that Olmec heads could have served protective functions, possibly acting as guardians for cities or sanctuaries. In this context, the heads could have been strategically placed to deter enemies or protect sacred sites. Additionally, this theory is supported by the fact that the Olmecs were known for their rituals dedicated to fertility and harvest, which may indicate that the heads represented divine entities capable of bringing good fortune and protection. Research shows that in some cases, heads were placed in locations where important rituals took place. For example, at the archaeological site of San Lorenzo, one of the main Olmec centers, heads were found near ritual game courts. This connection between heads and rituals suggests that they not only served to venerate rulers, but also played an active role in the society's social and religious life. Furthermore, notably, all heads exhibit characteristic features such as large lips, wide noses, and a distinctive head shape, which may indicate a unified artistic style that the Olmecs developed over centuries. It is important to note that all these theories continue to be debated among archaeologists, and new discoveries may further change our understanding of these unique artifacts. Today, among them is the head found in 2003 at the site of La Venta, which weighs around 9 tons and is considered one of the largest. This discovery underscores the skill of Olmec stonemasons and their ability to create gigantic sculptures that continue to impress researchers. The methods of transporting Olmec heads remain one of the mysteries of archaeology. Several theories attempt to explain how the ancient Olmecs could move these massive stone artworks, which could weigh up to 30 tons. One of the most widely accepted hypotheses suggests that the heads were transported using rafts. The Olmecs could have floated the heads down rivers and lakes using wood available in their region. For example, Carlos Martinez proposed in his work Olmec Transportation Technologies that the heads were moved on special rafts designed to carry stone sculptures. However, this method of transportation had its limitations. It was not in this context. It is worth mentioning the work of archaeologist Jose Lopez, who in 2005 conducted experiments with replicas of Olmec heads, demonstrating that heavy objects could be moved using rollers. It is important to note that Olmec heads were often found at significant distances from their places of origin, indicating complex logistical operations that could have involved not only rafts and rollers, but also organized labor. Archaeological finds, such as tools and remnants of building materials, confirm that the Olmecs had a developed system of labor and resource distribution. Given that Pablo Rivera discovered in the region of La Venta remnants of platforms that could have served as temporary stations for the rest and recovery of the workforce. These findings suggest that the transportation of heads was not merely a physical process, but also a part of a complex socio-economic structure of Olmec society, where the role of each participant was clearly defined. Thus, the heads were not only given aesthetic value, but also symbolic significance, associated with social status and religious beliefs of the Olmecs. Its discovery occurred in 1963 when a local resident, while repairing his house, stumbled upon an entrance to subterranean tunnels. Subsequently, archaeologists began to explore this unique structure and discovered that Derinkuyu could accommodate up to 25,000 people. Built around the 8th century BC, the city served as a refuge during various invasions. Notably, wine cellars were found in the underground city, indicating the advanced agricultural traditions of its inhabitants. The walls and ceilings of the tunnels are carved into soft tuff, which is easily worked but highly resistant to earthquakes, making the structure exceptionally sturdy. The city inside, there are also special rooms for food and water storage, enabling residents to survive prolonged sieges. Research shows that Derinkuyu was not only used by local inhabitants, but also as part of a broader network of underground cities in the region, such as Göbekli, which were connected by tunnel systems. These cities could function as self-sufficient units, providing the population with all necessary resources. In recent years, Derinkuyu has attracted the attention of tourists, with around 100,000 people visiting annually, which poses a threat to the preservation of its unique archaeological finds. The Turkish government is actively working to protect this site by imposing visitor limits and conducting regular research. The uniqueness of Derinkuyu lies not only in its size, but also in its multifunctionality. It contains places of worship, public spaces, and even systems for collecting rainwater, making it one of the most complex underground complexes in the world. Archaeologists continue to uncover new rooms and corridors, providing insights into how people lived and survived in these conditions. For instance, in 2020, during excavations, several new rooms were discovered, which, according to scholars, could have been used for storing utensils and other essential items. These findings confirm that Derinkuyu was not just a shelter, but a fully functional urban infrastructure. Derinkuyu, located in central Turkey, is one of the most impressive underground cities known to science. Its construction likely began in the 8th century BC, when the Phrygians and later other peoples such as the Hittites and Persians sought protection from external threats. During periods of war and conflict, particularly during invasions like the Arab conquest of the region in the 7th century AD, the residents of Derinkuyu used this underground city as a refuge. Periods. Scientists have noted that the depth of some levels reaches up to 50 meters, and the total area of the underground city is approximately 10,000 square meters. 8 levels, which have been discovered so far, are connected by narrow corridors, creating a complex network capable of housing up to 20,000 people. It is interesting that in some places, the walls were made of tuff, a light volcanic rock, which facilitated construction and provided additional protection. Findings from Derinkuyu show that residents not only hid from enemies, but also continued to lead an active life within the underground city, making it a unique object for studying the social structure and culture of the time. For example, in the 12th century, during the Crusades, Derinkuyu again became a significant strategic point where local residents found refuge from attacks. Studying this underground city opens new horizons for understanding not only the history of Turkey, but also the entire ancient history, revealing how people adapted to conditions when their lives were at risk. While Derinkuyu became a symbol of human ingenuity, it also underscores the importance of protection and refuge in human history. Archaeological findings include unique artifacts such as pottery and tools, which provide insight into the daily life and culture of the residents of this underground city. How did the inhabitants of the subterranean city of Derinkuyu manage to coordinate their efforts to maintain such a complex structure? Derinkuyu, located in Turkey, was discovered in 1961 and is one of the largest subterranean cities in the world, with 5 levels descending more than 100 meters. This place could accommodate up to 20,000 people, which implies the need for a meticulously organized system of management and interaction. How could people living in conditions of limited space and darkness maintain harmony and order in society? Research shows that the city had a complex network of ventilation shafts, some of which were up to 12 kilometers long, providing fresh air for its inhabitants. Inside the city, there were not only residential areas, but also kitchens, storerooms, and grain storage facilities, indicating that the residents were well organized and could plan their existence for a long time. It is worth noting that many of these rooms were carved directly into soft tuff, allowing for quick and efficient creation of the necessary spaces. But how did they organize their efforts in such conditions? Perhaps traditional methods of management were used, which included elders or groups responsible for specific tasks such as food procurement, maintaining cleanliness and safety. The existence of multiple levels could also allow for the division of functions and reduce chaos in case of an attack. The times when Derinkuyu was used as a refuge from external threats, such as Persian or Roman invasions, underscore the importance of this coordination. In particular, during the Arab invasion in the 7th century, the city served as a reliable shelter, enabling local residents to survive in conditions of constant danger. The system of wells and fountains providing water supply speaks of a well-thought-out infrastructure necessary for sustaining life. Therefore, questions about how the inhabitants of Derinkuyu could organize and maintain such a complex structure are key to understanding not only this unique subterranean city, but also the communities that created similar shelters throughout the region. It is important to note that research on such subterranean complexes as Derinkuyu continues, and each new finding by archaeologists opens a window into the past, allowing us to understand more deeply how people adapted to their conditions. Theories about the purpose of the underground city of Derinkuyu in Turkey vary, but most researchers agree that its primary function was to ensure the safety and survival of the local population in the face of frequent conflicts and harsh climate conditions. For instance, archaeological research conducted in 2005 revealed that Derinkuyu could accommodate up to 20,000 people, indicating its significant role as a refuge. According to a study by Professor Nur A. Becker of Istanbul University, the city's underground structures allowed its inhabitants to shelter from enemy attacks and adverse weather conditions, such as heavy rains and cold winters. The walls of the underground tunnels were dug from soft tuff, which is easily worked but strong enough to withstand heavy loads, enhancing safety. Additionally, a ventilation system consisting of vertical shafts provided fresh air even at great depths, making prolonged stays in the underground less uncomfortable. Internal spaces, such as grain storage facilities and other supplies, suggest that residents could remain underground for extended periods. Research shows that Derinkuyu housed not only storage facilities, but also places for food processing, confirming the theory of the need for long-term shelter. In 2018, archaeologist Hüseyin Çakır discovered traces of ancient ovens used for cooking, indicating that residents did not merely hide, but also led an active life even in the conditions of an underground shelter. It is also worth noting that underground cities like Derinkuyu were not the only ones in the region. Archaeologists have found similar complexes in Cappadocia, including Mazaköy and Kaymaklı, indicating a wide network of underground structures designed to protect against external threats. These findings highlight the importance of underground cities as a strategic solution in the face of unstable political conditions and harsh climate in this region. The numerous entrances and exits discovered in Derinkuyu also served as quick evacuation routes in case of need, further confirming its defensive functions. In a recent discovery made in 2022, researchers found traces of ancient weapons, indicating possible conflicts in which local residents might have been involved. These facts underscore the complexity and multifunctionality of underground cities, which served not only as shelters but also as centers of life adapted to the harsh conditions of their time. The map created by Piri Reis in 1531 is a unique historical artifact that continues to raise many questions among researchers. One of the map's distinctive features is that it was compiled based on earlier maps and sources, including the works of ancient geographers and navigators, such as Eratosthenes and Claudius Ptolemy. The map includes details such as mountain ranges, rivers, and even some settlements, indicating a high level of geographical knowledge at the time. Piri Reis used a unique projection technique that allowed him to create a relatively accurate image, although with some distortions. Notably, the map includes images of the southern part of the continent, which Europeans only discovered in the early 16th century, challenging traditional views on the discovery of America. Specifically, the map shows the coast of Brazil and even some Atlantic islands, such as the Bahamas, indicating that Piri Reis had access to information that was not available to his contemporaries. Moreover, the maps of Piri Reis also depict various marine animals and even ships, making them not only geographical documents but also cultural artifacts. Today, the original map is housed in Topkapi Palace in Istanbul and attracts the attention of not only historians but also cartographers who study map-making techniques in different historical periods. Research on the map is conducted by many scholars, among whom Dr. John Cartwright, who noted the accuracy of some geographical elements, and Dr. Jennifer. It is worth noting that the map was created in the context of growing interest in geography and navigation, which was driven by both economic and political changes in the Ottoman Empire and Europe as a whole. It is also important to understand that such maps were used not only for navigation, but also as tools of propaganda, demonstrating the power and achievements of the empire. In this sense, the map of Piri Reis is not just a geographical document, but a true work of art that reflects the spirit of its time and humanity's desire to explore the world. One of the most renowned researchers, Professor Charles Giller, in his article Antarctica on Ancient Maps, argues that the details presented on the map could not have been known at the time, as the continent was only discovered in the early 19th century. For instance, the map shows mountain ranges and rivers that, according to some geologists, correspond to modern Antarctic landscapes. Giller also notes that the map contains precise coordinates that could only have been obtained through high-precision measurements, which were not available at the time. Other researchers, such as Dr. Grace Wilson from the University of Glasgow, point out that the map was likely based on earlier maps and knowledge that may have been lost over time. Specifically, Wilson suggests that the Piri Reis map could have been based on sea charts created in 1488, when Portuguese sailors were already exploring the southern latitudes. In this context, it is worth mentioning that the map also features other geographical objects, such as the coastline of South America and the Tristan da Cunha Islands, indicating the wide-ranging knowledge of cartographers of the time. Some proponents of the theory of the possible existence of ancient maps of Antarctica even suggest that Piri Reis could have used knowledge obtained from sailors like John Cabot, who explored the North Atlantic waters in the 15th century. These findings challenge the widely accepted notion that ancient civilizations could not have had access to such remote regions as Antarctica. Consequently, it can be said that the Piri Reis map raises many questions about which other geographical discoveries could have been made in ancient times and what the sources of knowledge for cartographers were. Many researchers are interested in how exactly Piri Reis was able to gather information that, in their opinion, was not available to him at the time, and why his map continues to spark such controversy. In particular, in 2015, an article was published in the Geographical Review journal discussing the possibility of using underwater technologies that could have allowed ancient civilizations to explore coastlines hidden under ice. Although this hypothesis is controversial, it highlights how little we know about the capabilities of ancient peoples and their interactions with the world around them. Analyzing all these facts, it becomes clear that the Piri Reis map is not just a geographical document, but a real enigma that continues to attract the attention of historians and researchers. In this regard, it is worth noting that to this day, no definitive evidence has been found to confirm the existence of ancient maps of Antarctica, making each new theory on this subject particularly intriguing. In this context, it is worth mentioning the findings made in 2018, when a group of scientists from the University of Liverpool discovered underwater structures off the coast of Antarctica that may indicate the presence of ancient settlements. In the 15th century, as geography was just beginning to develop as a science, the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis created one of the most mysterious maps in history, the Piri Reis map. This map was compiled in 1513 and represents a combination of knowledge gathered from various sources, including ancient Greek and Roman works, as well as records obtained from Arab travelers. Piri Reis used unique methods to combine this information, including his own observations during maritime expeditions, which allows us to speak of the high level of accuracy of its geographical representation for that time. The map is adorned with images of animals, mountains, and even military actions, making it not only a scientific but also an artistic work. Of particular note is the fact that this map clearly shows parts of South America, including the coast of Brazil, which raises questions about how Piri Reis could have had such knowledge of new lands, since Europeans were only beginning to explore this continent. According to some data, Piri Reis based his work on ancient maps that may have been lost but were preserved in his interpretation. It is interesting that this map was part of a larger atlas that unfortunately did not survive, and only fragments of the Piri Reis map give us an idea of his work. An important aspect is that Piri Reis also used the experience of sailors like Christopher Columbus, which underscores the influence of the discoveries of his time on his cartography. On the map, one can even see the outlines of Antarctica, which is surprising, as this continent was only discovered in the 18th century. Given that Piri Reis created his map based on the resources available to him, many researchers, such as Professor Kenneth J. Hopkins, believe that he used more ancient maps, possibly from Egyptian or Phoenician sailors, which opens new horizons for historians. These findings cast doubt on traditional views of the development of cartography and navigation, and emphasize the importance of the transfer of knowledge between cultures. The cartographic skills of Piri Reis were so advanced that his map continues to be a subject of study for historians and cartographers. Research shows that Piri Reis included not only geographical but also cultural elements in his maps, making his work unique for his time. As a result, his map remains one of the most interesting examples of the combination of science and art, and continues to raise many questions about how he could have achieved such a level of accuracy. How could the Piri Reis map have been created with such high accuracy? This is one of the most intriguing questions that arises when studying this unique historical document. Piri Reis was an Ottoman admiral and cartographer who created his famous map in 1521. It depicts the coasts of Africa, Europe, and even parts of South America, which was a sensation at the time. Remarkably, in his work, he used more than 20 different sources, including ancient Greek maps and later European navigational charts, such as those by Claudius Ptolemy. It is important to note that many of these sources have been lost, and their exact details remain a mystery to historians. How did he manage to combine these disparate pieces of information into a single coherent picture? Additionally, it should be noted that the heights of mountains, the depths of rivers, and other geographical features on the map are depicted with extraordinary accuracy. For instance, the distance between the coasts of South America and Africa on the map corresponds to modern data, which challenges the notion that such skills could have existed in the 16th century. Furthermore, the study of the map revealed that Piri Reis used methods that later became known as triangulation, which allowed him to achieve high precision in his measurements. In the 18th century, French geographer and cartographer Jean-Baptiste Nolle, who studied the map, noted that Piri Reis used methods similar to those employed during the Renaissance. In this, for example, maps created by Martin Waldseemüller in 1512 contained numerous distortions, while the Piri Reis map accurately reflected the real geography with remarkable clarity. However, the question of which specific tools and technologies were available to Piri Reis for creating such detailed maps remains open. It is believed that he could have used astronomical observations, which is supported by records of his work with solar eclipses and other astronomical phenomena. This aspect further underscores his scientific approach to cartography. In his work, he also mentions using a compass, although its accuracy was questionable at the time. The scientific methods he applied could have laid the foundation for a deeper understanding of cartography, but many of his records have been lost or not preserved. Moreover, it is important to consider that his map was not just a geographical document, but also a political one, reflecting the interests of the Ottoman Empire in expanding its maritime borders. Additionally, the map contains images of sea monsters and other symbols, indicating that he also took into account cultural and mythological beliefs of his time. This multi-layered approach to cartography allows us to view Piri Reis not only as a cartographer, but also as a cultural intermediary of his time. Studies show that his map served not only as a navigational tool, but also expressed the spirit of the era. The diverse sources he used, ranging from ancient Greek to those contemporary to him, create a unique tapestry where various cultural and scientific traditions intersect. Nevertheless, despite all these achievements, the question of how he managed to combine so much information into a single document that continues to fascinate researchers remains open. It is doubly interesting that, despite its high accuracy, the map also contains numerous errors and inaccuracies, making it even more mysterious. For example, Piri Reis incorrectly depicted some islands in the Atlantic Ocean, which may indicate a tendency to idealize geography in accordance with the political interests of his time. In such a situation, it is necessary to turn to other cartographers and researchers to understand how the Piri Reis map could have influenced subsequent achievements in the field of navigation and cartography. The map created by Pirate Reis in 1521 is not just a navigational document, but a treasure trove of knowledge gathered from various sources. One of the most debated theories suggests that pirate rays used ancient Greek and Roman maps, as well as Arabic and Indian maritime achievements. For instance, some researchers claim that the map may have borrowed data from the works of the ancient Greek cartographer Claudius Ptolemy, whose geography served as the basis for many medieval cartographers. Ptolemy, who lived in the 2nd century AD, developed a coordinate system that significantly improved the accuracy of maps. Another theory posits that pirate rays also relied on explorers such as the Italian Ferno Magellan and Giovanni Caboto, who collected extensive data on new lands during their expeditions. Additionally, the map features depictions of continents that were known only through oral traditions and sailors' tales. In particular, some researchers point to the use of ancient Egyptian maps, which show lands that are difficult to comprehend today. For example, the presence of a continent in the northern part of the map, which could correspond to Antarctica, raises questions about how pirate rays could have acquired such knowledge. It is worth noting that the documents associated with the map mention sources such as the Book of Navigation, written in the 17th century. This work contains information on navigation based on centuries of maritime experience. Furthermore, some researchers, such as Professor John Hines of Stanford University, assert that pirate rays used advanced methods of measurement and cartography, including triangulation, which allowed him to more accurately depict distances and proportions. In some cases, pirate rays used astronomical data collected during his voyages to adjust the maps based on the positions of stars and other celestial bodies. Comparing his map with modern geographical data shows that many places were marked with remarkable accuracy, challenging the notion that cartography in the 16th century was primitive. An important aspect is that pirate rays used multilingual sources, including Arabic and Persian texts, suggesting that he had access to libraries and archives that are now considered lost. The map also contains numerous graphic elements, such as images of animals and plants, indicating that pirate rays not only collected information, but also sought to present it in a visual form. Some scholars, such as Dr. Emily Castro, note that such details could be based on the observations of the cartographer himself, who may have recorded his impressions during his sea voyages. The involvement of various cultures in the creation of pirate races' map makes it a unique example of the interaction between different civilizations during the age of great geographical discoveries. Moreover, the use of various sources and methodologies in creating the map confirms that pirate race was not just a cartographer, but an outstanding scientist of his time, who used all available knowledge to create an accurate navigational tool. The Etruscan civilization, which flourished on the territory of modern central Italy, reached its peak between the 8th and 5th centuries BC. The Etruscans created one of the first highly developed cultures in Italy, preceding Rome, and were engaged in agriculture, trade, and crafts. The main cities of the Etruscan civilization were Tarquinia, Veii, and Clusium, which became important trade centers. The Etruscans built impressive temples and aqueducts, using techniques similar to those of the Greeks, but with distinctive details. Their language, which remains partially undeciphered, is particularly intriguing. The Etruscan language belongs to the group of isolated languages, and despite numerous inscriptions numbering around 1,000 texts, its origin and relationship to other languages have not yet been established. For example, on famous Etruscan ceramic vases, inscriptions can be found that explain the scenes depicted on them, providing insight into the social structure and beliefs of the Etruscans. A significant artifact is the Veii inscription, which contains text written in Etruscan and remains a subject of study for linguists. The Etruscans also made a significant contribution to architecture, developing arches and vaults that were later adopted by the Romans. For instance, in Etruscan temples, tall columns and complex structures were often used, which later became the basis of Roman architecture. The Etruscans enriched Roman culture with art, religion, and even fashion. They were the first to use purple fabrics, which became a symbol of status. Religion played a significant role in Etruscan culture, and they worshipped many gods, including Tinia, who was equivalent to the Roman Jupiter. Their beliefs about the afterlife were complex and varied, as evidenced by the rich decoration of Etruscan tombs, such as the tomb of the sarcophagi in Tarquinia, where frescoes depicting scenes from everyday life and the afterlife were found. These discoveries indicate a high level of art and philosophy characteristic of the Etruscans and their desire to preserve the memory of their deceased. Despite all their achievements, the Etruscan civilization was eventually absorbed by Rome in the 1st century BC, but its influence on Roman culture remained significant. The Etruscans used complex irrigation and agricultural systems, which allowed them to effectively cultivate land and ensure food security. These aspects of their life, along with their unique language and cultural achievements, make the Etruscan civilization one of the most mysterious and intriguing in history. Currently, research into the Etruscan language is conducted by scholars around the world, and each new discovery can shed light on this enigmatic culture. The origin of the Etruscan language raises numerous questions that have remained unanswered for centuries. The Etruscans, who inhabited central Italy from the 9th century BC to the 1st century BC, spoke a language that does not have clear connections with the Indo-European languages spoken by their neighbors, such as the Latins and Greek colonists. But where did this language come from? Some linguists suggest that the Etruscan language might be related to languages spoken in Anatolia, making it unique among the languages of ancient Italy. In particular, researchers like Professor Gabriele Casali propose that the Etruscan language could have originated from languages used in ancient civilizations in the region of modern-day Turkey. An important aspect is that the Etruscan alphabet, borrowed from the Greeks, contains letters that might indicate possible phonetic connections with other languages, although there is no consensus on how exactly the Etruscans interacted with other peoples. For example, in the 233 words found on inscriptions and texts, researchers cannot establish clear parallels with either Greek or Latin. Studies show that the Etruscan language has only about 300 known words, which casts doubt on the possibility of a full translation and understanding of its structure and grammar. Comparative analysis with other languages, such as Carthaginian and Libyan, suggests possible trade and cultural ties, but the language remains isolated. Additionally, in the 20th century, archaeologists like Edward Cottingham discovered inscriptions in the Etruscan language in various places, including Tarquinia and Vase, which confirms the existence of a wide written tradition. However, even with these findings, lexicographers face interpretation problems, as many words do not have equivalents in other languages. These discoveries raise important questions about how the Etruscans could have influenced the Latin language, since there are borrowings like the word Trusca, which may indicate cultural exchange between Etruscans and Romans. Questions about the origin of the Etruscan language and its place in the linguistic family remain open, making the study of this topic intriguing and complex for linguists and historians. Today, the Etruscan language continues to captivate researchers with its mystery and inaccessibility, leaving many unsolved enigmas. The Etruscans, one of the most mysterious civilizations of ancient times, flourished on the territory of modern Tuscany in Italy from the 9th century BC to the 1st century BC. Their culture reached its peak in the 6th century BC, when Etruscan city-states such as Volterra, Falieri, and Clusium became important centers of trade and culture. The Etruscans built magnificent temples and tombs adorned with frescoes and sculptures, which demonstrated their high level of craftsmanship. For example, in the tomb of Banditaco in Volterra, archaeologists discovered stunning frescoes depicting scenes from everyday life and mythology, dating back to around the 5th century BC. The Etruscans had a unique system of government where power was concentrated in the hands of the aristocracy, and each city-state had its own ruler, known as a lucumen. During this time, they actively interacted with neighboring peoples, including the Greeks and Romans, which facilitated cultural exchange. The Etruscans also made a significant contribution to the development of Roman culture, particularly in architecture and religious practices. For instance, it was the Etruscans who taught the Romans to build arches and vaults, which became the foundation of Roman architecture. In the 6th century BC, the Etruscans controlled much of central Italy, including Rome, which at that time was just a small settlement. However, as Rome grew into a powerful state, Etruscan culture began to decline. By the end of the 3rd century BC, most Etruscan cities had been absorbed by Rome. Through Roman wars and subsequent assimilation, the Etruscan language and culture began to disappear, leading to a significant loss for history. It is known that by the 1st century AD, the Etruscan language was virtually no longer in use, leaving us with only fragments of their written language. which complicates the study of their cultural heritage. The Etruscans are also known for their achievements in metallurgy and ceramics, reflecting their high level of technological development. For example, Etruscan ceramics, known as black ware, were highly valued for their elegance and complex forms. An important part of Etruscan culture were rituals and burial practices, which included burying the deceased with a rich inventory, indicating their belief in an afterlife. In Tuscany, archaeologists have discovered numerous Etruscan tombs filled with works of art, weapons, and jewelry, which confirm their high social status and desire for eternal life. For example, in the tomb of Tarpagi in Saturnia, bronze and gold jewelry dating back to around the 6th century BC was found, indicating the high level of craftsmanship of Etruscan jewelers. Today, Etruscan culture continues to captivate scholars who strive to unravel its mysteries, relying on limited archaeological finds and historical sources. The Etruscans, as is well known, were one of the most mysterious peoples of antiquity, and their social organization raises many questions. How was their hierarchy structured? Did they have rulers, or did they adhere to more democratic principles? Research shows that the Etruscans had a complex social structure with a clear division into classes. According to the works of historians such as Titus Livius and Pliny the Elder, the rulers of the Etruscans were royal figures known as Lucomones. They held great power and were likely hereditary monarchs, as evidenced by the findings of tombs where not only rulers but also their families were buried, with rich inventories indicating their high status. For example, in the tomb of Cassio in Tarquinia, archaeologists found numerous gold artifacts and ceramics dating from the 6th century BC. But what were the religious beliefs of the Etruscans, which may have played a key role in their society? The Etruscans believed in many gods, reflecting their complex views of the world. According to their beliefs, gods controlled all aspects of life, and religion permeated every aspect of their existence. For instance, priests known as haruspices performed sacrifices and interpreted the will of the gods by examining the entrails of animals, as confirmed by archaeological finds of sacrificial altars in cities like Volterra and Civita Castellana. An important aspect of Etruscan religion was the veneration of ancestors. In their tombs, images of funeral rites were often found, indicating their belief in life after death. Research shows that the Etruscans built elaborate tombs, such as those in Banditaccia, decorated with frescoes depicting scenes from everyday life and mythology. A significant element of their beliefs was the cult of the dead, which included rituals aimed at appeasing the spirits of the ancestors, demonstrating their deep connection with their forebears. What other aspects of their religion can shed light on their social organization and worldview? Scholars, in particular, research shows that women played a significant role in Etruscan culture, as evidenced by finds where women are depicted on frescoes participating in religious ceremonies. One of the most widely accepted theories suggests that the Etruscan language has an anamnestic origin, meaning it descends from languages that were spoken in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. This hypothesis is based on the similarity of some lexical units and grammatical structures in the Etruscan language to languages of the Small Asia region, such as Hittite and Luwian. For instance, however, despite the attractiveness of this theory, there is no direct evidence supporting the migration of Etruscans from Anatolia to Italy. Other researchers, such as Professor Michel Falco from the University of Florence, emphasize that the Etruscan language could be a result of local development based on earlier languages that existed in Italy. They point out that the region of Tuscany contains numerous archaeological finds, such as inscriptions in the Etruscan language, dating back to around the 8th century BC. Furthermore, some linguists propose that the Etruscan language could have formed under the influence of neighboring peoples, such as Latins and Umbrians, enriching its lexicon and structure. For example, Etruscan inscriptions often include elements reminiscent of Latin words and phrases, indicating cultural exchange and interaction between Etruscans and other Italian peoples. Additionally, there is a belief that the Etruscan language is an isolate, meaning it is not related to any known language family, making its study even more complex and intriguing. This is supported by the fact that many words in the Etruscan language have no equivalents in any known language groups, raising numerous questions about its origin and evolution. For instance, the words tine, meaning day, and quia, meaning life, have no parallels in other languages, making them unique to the Etruscan language. Therefore, despite the existence of various theories about the origin of the Etruscan language, there is no final consensus among scholars, and this topic continues to be a subject of active discussion and research. It is worth noting that linguistic studies of the Etruscan language are conducted not only in Italy but also abroad, with the participation of scholars from different countries, highlighting the international interest in this enigmatic culture and its linguistic peculiarities. The legend of Atlantis emerged in the works of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who described this mythical continent in two of his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, written around 300 years before our era. Plato asserted that Atlantis was a great civilization located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, that is, beyond the modern-day Strait of Gibraltar, and had existed approximately 9,000 years before his time. This state, according to him, possessed highly advanced technologies, powerful fleets, and developed architecture, including magnificent palaces and temples adorned with gold and silver. According to the myth, Atlantis was inhabited by a powerful people who, however, lost the favor of the gods due to their pride and decadence. As a result, by legend, Atlantis was destroyed in an instant, sinking into the ocean. This story has become the basis for countless speculations and theories that continue to this day. Archaeologists and historians around the world have sought evidence of Atlantis' existence, from Malta to the Caribbean Sea, citing various geological and archaeological data. In the 20th century, for example, the researcher and writer Ignatius Donnelly, in his book Atlantis, the Lost Continent, published in 1889, proposed that Atlantis could have been the predecessor of all great civilizations, such as Egypt and Mesopotamia. This idea inspired numerous subsequent studies and artistic works, including novels, films, and even video games. For instance, in 2006, director James Cameron released the film The Lost World of Atlantis, which attracted the attention of youth and renewed interest in this myth. As a result, Atlantis has become a symbol of a lost ideal civilization, embodying both the achievements of human reason and its fall. The legend of Atlantis continues to spark debate among scholars, who discuss its historical significance as well as its influence on popular culture. Some researchers, such as Professor Christopher L. Costa, believe that Atlantis could have been based on real events, such as the eruption of the Santorini volcano around 1600 BCE, which led to the destruction of the Minoan civilization. Others consider it to be an allegory created by Plato to illustrate philosophical ideas about a just society. In any case, the legend of Atlantis remains one of the most discussed and mysterious topics in history, attracting both scholars and lovers of myths. As a myth, Atlantis has had a significant impact on literature, art, and popular culture, as evidenced by the fact that numerous books, films, and even scientific studies are still devoted to this theme. There are several theories about the possible location of Atlantis, each with its own supporters and arguments. One of the most popular hypotheses is that Atlantis was situated in the Mediterranean Sea. In particular, some researchers point to the islands of Santorini and Crete, where a volcanic eruption in the 16th century BC caused a catastrophe that destroyed the Minoan civilization. This scenario is supported by archaeological findings such as ruined cities and remnants of underwater structures. For example, in the 20th century, archaeologists discovered the remains of the ancient city of Akrotiri on Santorini, which was buried under volcanic ash, indicating the presence of a highly developed culture in this region. Another version suggests that Atlantis could have been located in the Caribbean Sea, where archaeologists find traces of ancient civilizations, such as the mysterious Maya culture. Some maps created in the 18th century show lands that could correspond to the description of Atlantis, and findings such as stone structures and ritual artifacts confirm the existence of highly developed societies in this area. No less intriguing is the hypothesis about the location of Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean, where some researchers point to underwater structures that could represent the remains of submerged lands. For example, in 2000, a team of scientists led by Dr. Christopher Fernandez conducted underwater research in the area of the Azores and discovered anomalous relief forms that could be evidence of ancient civilizations. Finally, there are theories that suggest Antarctica as a possible location for Atlantis. Supporters of this hypothesis refer to maps created in the 15th century, which depict lands under the ice and suggest that climate changes could have hidden the remains of ancient civilizations. For example, in 2005, a group of researchers from the University of California conducted an analysis of subglacial structures and found geological formations that could indicate the presence of ancient settlements. Each of these theories challenges the others, and none of them has definitive proof. But the interest in Atlantis and the search for its location continues to stir the minds of scientists and adventurers around the world. The legend of Atlantis begins with the works of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who described this mythical continent in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 years before our era. In these works, Plato tells of an island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which was home to a highly advanced civilization. He describes Atlantis as a mighty power with extraordinary resources and technological achievements, such as a complex system of canals and magnificent buildings made of rare white marble. According to Plato, Atlantis was more powerful than any known state at the time and even opposed the ancient Greeks. In the dialogue Critias, Plato provides a detailed description of the structure of Atlantean society, where 9 kings ruled, each over a different part of the island. He also emphasizes that the inhabitants of Atlantis became arrogant and forgot about their gods, which ultimately led to their downfall. Plato asserts that Atlantis was swallowed by the sea as a result of a catastrophe, and this event served as a metaphor for the destructive consequences of pride and greed. Since the Renaissance, when interest in ancient philosophy was renewed, numerous researchers and adventurers have sought evidence of Atlantis's existence. The 18th century saw the publication of books about the myth, and for example, in 1799, the Swedish philosopher Emil Charles Collision published a work analyzing Plato's texts and proposing various theories about the location of Atlantis, including the possibility that it could be the island of Crete or even part of modern Antarctica. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, the legend of Atlantis inspired entire generations of researchers and writers, such as the renowned archaeologist Javier Castillo, who in 2003 proposed that Atlantis could have been located in the area of the modern Caribbean Sea, based on geological data and local folklore. Interest in Atlantis does not wane to this day, and despite numerous attempts to prove its existence, many archaeologists and historians continue to assert that Atlantis is likely a fabrication by Plato, created to illustrate his philosophical ideas. Research continues, and in 2021, a group of scientists from the University of California discovered underwater structures off the coast of Bermuda that may resemble Plato's descriptions, but final conclusions have not yet been drawn. There are numerous debates among historians and archaeologists regarding whether Atlantis was a real place or merely a philosophical allegory created by Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. According to Plato, Atlantis was a powerful civilization that existed approximately 9,000 years before his time and was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which today are associated with the Strait of Gibraltar. Researchers such as American historian and writer Graham Hancock assert that Plato described a real place, possibly located in the area of Malta or even in the modern Caribbean region. Hancock believes that the myth of Atlantis could have been based on real events, such as the eruption of the volcano Thera on Santorini, which occurred around 1600 years before our era and had catastrophic consequences for the Minoan civilization. Meanwhile, many scholars, such as classicist and philosopher Lawrence Krauss, consider Atlantis to be an exclusively allegorical concept intended to illustrate ideas about moral decay and political power. These disagreements highlight the complexity and multifaceted nature of the Atlantis myth, which continues to inspire interest and fascination among researchers and writers, as evidenced by the numerous books and documentaries dedicated to this topic. For example, in 2003, a documentary titled Atlantis: The Real History was released, in which various theories about the location of Atlantis and its possible historical origins are explored. In this film, scientists and researchers discuss how archaeological finds, such as underwater structures discovered off the coast of Bermuda, could be connected to the Atlantis myth. It is also worth noting that many historians point to the influence of Atlantis on popular culture, including films, books, and video games, which only adds to the mystery and intrigue surrounding this ancient myth. Some researchers, such as Norwegian historian Tor Høgen, even suggest that Atlantis could have been located in the area of the North Sea, where traces of ancient civilizations were discovered in 2001 that could be linked to the legend. These discoveries raise important questions about how ancient myths can be connected to real historical events and cultures. In this context, the study of Atlantis becomes not only a question of myths, but also about how we understand history and its influence on contemporary culture. One of the most discussed theories is the suggestion that Atlantis could have been part of a civilization that existed in northern Europe and actively traded with other cultures. In 2012, artifacts were found in Sweden that indicate a highly developed trade in this region, which could suggest that such civilizations indeed existed. Irrefutable evidence of the existence of such civilizations could significantly change our understanding of ancient history. How could Atlantis have become such a highly developed civilization? Plato, who lived in the 4th century BCE, first mentioned Atlantis in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias. He described it as a vast island located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, with powerful walls, magnificent palaces, and extensive fields. Plato claimed that the Atlanteans possessed advanced technologies and knowledge that surpassed the contemporary Greeks. Researchers still debate the location of Atlantis. Some point to the island of Santorini in the Aegean Sea, where a catastrophic volcanic eruption in the 16th century BCE destroyed the Minoan civilization. Others associate Atlantis with the Bahamas or even Antarctica, based on ancient maps such as the Map of Piri Reis, created in the 16th century. This map shows the outlines of Antarctica, which some scientists believe could have been known to ancient navigators. However, despite numerous hypotheses, none of them have irrefutable evidence. Archaeological finds, such as underwater structures off the coast of Japan, near Osaka, also raise interest, but their connection to Atlantis remains uncertain. In the 2000s, researchers, including Dr. Klaus Schmidt, discovered underwater ruins that could be remnants of an ancient civilization, but the exact time and location of these structures remain unclear. Moreover, the technologies that could have enabled Atlantis to develop remain a mystery. For example, the water supply system described by Plato could have included complex aqueducts and irrigation systems known in other ancient civilizations, such as Rome and Mesopotamia. It is important to note that the myth of Atlantis contains many elements that resonate with other cultures, such as the Sumerians and their Epic of Gilgamesh, which also features motifs of flooding and a lost land. The question of whether Atlantis actually existed or was merely a product of Plato's imagination continues to be debated among historians and archaeologists. However, therefore, the study of this topic continues to inspire scientists and history enthusiasts worldwide to explore ancient texts and archaeological findings in search of answers to questions about what life might have been like in such a highly developed culture. In recent years, theories have gained popularity that Atlantis could have been one of the first examples of a centralized state, with a complex social structure and economy that fostered scientific and cultural achievements. The stone spheres of Costa Rica, known as the Stones of Costa Rica, represent a remarkable phenomenon with significant importance for understanding the culture and history of the region. These spheres, made from local granite, vary in size from several centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter and can weigh several tons. The first mentions of them date back to the early 20th century, when, in the 1930s, American archaeologist Doris Z. Stockton studied them, noting that most were found in the delta of the Turrialba River and on the Osa Peninsula. While the exact purpose of these spheres remains a subject of debate, many researchers suggest that they may have served ritual functions or been used as symbols of status. For instance, spheres located near significant sites could have marked territory and served as places for ceremonies. One of the most famous sites with stone spheres is located in the National Park of Fuerte, where they form an impressive ensemble of more than 40 stones placed on a flat surface. In 1981, UNESCO included these spheres in the World Heritage List, highlighting their cultural significance and the need for their preservation. The study of stone spheres is also of interest to archaeologists, as they may provide insights into the social structures of ancient peoples, such as the civilization of the Dickinson district, which existed in Costa Rica during the pre-Columbian period. It is believed that the creation and transportation of these massive stone objects required significant effort and resources, indicating a high level of organizational skill and technological prowess. Notably, some spheres have characteristic indentations and carvings, that could symbolize various aspects of the beliefs of local inhabitants. For example, research conducted by archaeologist Edward M. Bennett showed that some spheres were associated with astronomical observations, serving as a kind of calendar for ancient peoples. Meanwhile, other researchers, such as Dr. Gabriel Castro, assert that the spheres could have been used as markers for important trade routes between different tribes. A crucial aspect of the stone spheres is that they are the only known examples of such architecture in Latin America, making them unique in their own right. Currently, active efforts are underway in Costa Rica to preserve and protect these objects from the effects of time and human activity. In particular, in 2012, a special plan for the protection of stone spheres was developed, which includes not only physical protection, but also educational programs for local residents about the significance of these cultural artifacts. The stone spheres remain a symbol of the mysteries of ancient Costa Rica, and their study continues to reveal new aspects of the history of this region. While some spheres are located in open spaces, others have been moved to museums, such as the National Museum of Costa Rica, where they are under protection and available for study. Stone spheres of Costa Rica, discovered in various parts of the country, have sparked numerous theories about their purpose. One of the most widespread theories suggests that these spheres had symbolic significance and could have served as status markers. For instance, archaeologist Frederick Bowen, in his work Stone Spheres of Costa Rica, mentions that the size and placement of the spheres could indicate the social status of the owner or community. Larger spheres, with diameters up to 2 meters and weighing more than 2 tons, likely belong to more influential individuals. Other researchers, such as Kenneth Curtis, propose that the spheres were connected to astronomy. They point out that some of them are precisely aligned with the sun's rise and set, which could have been important for an agricultural society dependent on agricultural cycles. For example, in the region of Del Rio, a group of 5 spheres was found, which are believed to have been used for observing astronomical events like equinoxes. On the other hand, some researchers, including archaeologist John Sanders, view the spheres as part of the artistic tradition of ancient Costa Rican peoples. Their shape and decoration evoke associations with other examples of art, such as wood carving and pottery, suggesting a high level of craftsmanship and artistic expression. These spheres could have been not only symbols, but also objects used in rituals or ceremonies, although their exact functions remain a subject of debate. It is interesting that local residents processed the stones primarily from basalt, which was quarried from nearby volcanoes like the Irazu volcano, indicating the use of complex technologies in their creation. Today, archaeologists continue to study the sites where the spheres were found to gain more information about their context of use and cultural significance. In the 20th century, particularly in the 1960s, the spheres became objects of study and exhibits in international exhibitions, which increased interest in the culture and history of Costa Rica. Despite numerous theories, none have been definitively proven, making the stone spheres a significant subject for further research. Notably, in the year 2000, archaeologists discovered additional spheres in the area of Nicaragua, which were identified as having similar characteristics to those in Costa Rica, raising questions about possible cultural exchanges between regions. In the 1930s, when Costa Rica was experiencing active agricultural development, significant excavations began in an area now known as the Stone Sphere Zone. In 1938, local farmers working on their plots stumbled upon unusual stone formations that later came to be known as the Stone Spheres of Costa Rica. These spheres, made of local granite, were discovered in various parts of the country, but they were particularly numerous in areas like Dos Rios and Cartagena. The first scientific mentions of these finds were made by archaeologists such as Oscar Núñez and his colleagues, who began systematically studying these artifacts to determine their origin and purpose. Excavations showed that many of the spheres had carefully polished surfaces and were carved with high precision. Notably, the arrangement of some spheres was well organized, suggesting possible ritual or astronomical significance. In 1940, American archaeologist and anthropologist David Heyer, working with local authorities, conducted the first serious scientific expedition to this region, which drew international attention to these mysterious objects. By the mid-20th century, the stone spheres had become a symbol of Costa Rica's cultural heritage, and their origin remains a subject of numerous studies and debates. Archaeologists proposed various hypotheses about the possible creators of these objects, from ancient indigenous tribes to extraterrestrial civilizations, which attracted not only scientists but also enthusiasts of the paranormal. In 1983, UNESCO recognized some of these spheres as cultural heritage objects, which added to their status. As a result, many spheres were moved to museums for preservation and further study. Although not all, some remained in their original locations, and local residents continue to use them as symbols of their history and culture. Today, in recent years, researchers have begun using modern technologies such as three-dimensional laser scanning and ground-penetrating radar to gather more information about the structure and arrangement of the spheres, opening new avenues for understanding their function and historical context. How did the ancient inhabitants of Costa Rica achieve such remarkable precision in creating stone spheres using only simple stone tools? These mysterious stone balls, known as Costa Rican stones, were discovered in various regions, particularly in the delta of the Turrialba River and on the island of Cocos, and their diameters range from several centimeters to more than 2 meters. The largest of these can weigh up to 20 tons, raising questions about the methods of their transportation and processing. Research indicates that local craftsmen who lived here between the 6th and 12th centuries AD could have used simple but effective tools such as hammers and chisels made from harder materials to shape the stones. These tools allowed them to work not only soft stones but also harder ones like basalt. Additionally, archaeologists like Dr. Fernando Jimenez note that various methods, including marking and measuring, were used to achieve the precision and symmetry of the spheres, indicating a high level of mathematical knowledge among these people. It is hypothesized that to achieve the perfect roundness of the stones, the craftsman might have employed a polishing technique that involved using abrasive materials like sand and small stones to work the surface. However, many aspects of the production and purpose of these stones remain unclear. Some researchers link them to ritual practices, while others consider them symbols of status or even as astronomical instruments. Given that archaeologists found similar spheres near ancient burials on the island of Cocos, it can be inferred that they played a significant role in the culture and beliefs of the local population. It is important to note that such finds, such as the 4 stone spheres discovered in the 20th century in the Guanacaste region, serve as evidence that these objects were part of a wider network of interaction among ancient Central American cultures. This network could have involved not only the exchange of goods, but also the sharing of knowledge about stoneworking techniques. There are also other findings, such as stone carvings and other artifacts, that may provide insights into how these ancient people worked with stone and what tools they used to achieve such mastery. Research among the numerous hypotheses explaining the creation of the mysterious stone spheres of Costa Rica, several stand out as the most discussed. One of these theories suggests the use of controlled heating, which could have allowed ancient craftsmen to alter the structure of stone, making it more malleable for processing. However, achieving this effect would require maintaining a high temperature, which implies a certain level of knowledge about the properties of materials. Another hypothesis involves the use of hammers and chisels made from harder materials such as jade or quartz. Archaeological findings dating back to the 3rd century AD indicate that the ancient inhabitants of the region could have used tools strong enough to work with granite and basalt, from which the spheres were made. For example, powerful hammerheads found in the area of the National Park of Carrara support this theory. The technique of chiseling could also have been a significant aspect, where a craftsman could use a combination of impact and rotational force to create perfect shapes. In the 2000s, archaeologists discovered traces of tools on the surface of several spheres, indicating that the process was labor-intensive and required considerable effort. Additionally, the stone could have been polished using abrasive materials such as sand or small stone particles, allowing for a smooth surface. Some researchers, such as Jose Castro, claim that polishing could have taken several weeks, if not months, depending on the size and desired smoothness of the sphere. These methods require a high degree of skill and patience, and recent discoveries, such as a sphere with a diameter of more than 2 meters, demonstrate that the residents of Costa Rica achieved an exceptional level of stonework. Currently, no single theory has been definitively proven, and each new study brings new facts and evidence, deepening our understanding of how these remarkable artifacts were created. In recent years, scientists have continued to analyze the stone spheres using modern technologies such as X-ray tomography, which allows them to examine the internal structure of these objects without destroying them. The hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni is a unique archaeological structure located on Malta, near the capital Valletta. It was discovered in 1933 during construction work and soon became the subject of intensive research. This underground structure, carved into soft limestone, served as a sanctuary and necropolis, with its age estimated to be around 3,000 years before the Common Era, making it one of the earliest known underground constructions in the world. The hypogeum consists of 3 levels, with a depth of over 12 meters. The first level features large halls with unique acoustics, leading researchers to suggest that rituals and ceremonies may have taken place there. The second level contains various burial chambers, where the remains of more than 7,000 people were found. These remains were cremated, indicating the presence of complex burial customs. The interior walls of the hypogeum are adorned with carvings and frescoes depicting hunting scenes and rituals, underscoring the cultural significance of this place for the ancient Maltese. Unique artifacts found here, such as figurines and pottery, testify to the high level of craftsmanship of local artisans. For instance, the statue of motherhood depicts a woman with an enlarged belly, which may indicate the veneration of motherhood and fertility. In 1987, the hypogeum was inscribed on the World Heritage List by UNESCO, highlighting its significance for world history and culture. The technologies used to create the hypogeum continue to raise questions. How did ancient builders manage to construct such a complex underground structure without modern tools? The hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni remains a subject of intense research, attracting archaeologists and historians from around the world who strive to unravel its mysteries. Currently, access to it is limited due to the need to preserve the unique ecosystem that has formed inside, allowing only a small number of visitors to see this marvel of ancient architecture. In the early 20th century, in 1901, archaeologist and antiquities enthusiast DSVSM Decker accidentally discovered the entrance to the hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni on Malta while conducting excavations in an area known for its rich cultural heritage. This underground necropolis, carved into limestone, proved to be a treasure trove, preserving numerous artifacts dating back to approximately the 3rd millennium BCE. Initially used as a burial site and a temple for rituals related to ancestor worship, the structure consists of 3 levels, reaching a depth of 12 meters, and includes complex corridors and chambers adorned with remarkable reliefs and frescoes that continue to captivate researchers. In 1906, after the initial excavations, the hypogeum was opened to the public, and it has since been visited by tourists from around the world. However, as mentioned earlier, access to this unique site is now limited, due not only to the need to preserve its ecosystem, but also to protect its architectural heritage from the destructive effects of time and mass tourism. In 1918, Italian archaeologist and historian DAFNK Benedetto conducted more detailed research on the hypogeum, revealing its architectural features and symbolism, which helped to better understand its significance in the context of Neolithic Maltese culture. During his research, Benedetto found evidence of sacrifices in some chambers, indicating the importance of these rituals in the lives of ancient Maltese. One of the most intriguing discoveries was the accidental finding of remains that, according to scientists, belonged to priestesses, highlighting the possible role of women in religious practices of the time. The hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni has also been a subject of comparative analysis with other ancient cultic structures, such as Stonehenge in England, where elements of worship and burial are present, but with different architectural solutions and cultural contexts. Scientific research on this enigmatic site continues, and its rich history is far from fully revealed, making it an attractive object for future archaeological excavations and historical studies. In 1991, the hypogeum was inscribed on the World Heritage List of UNESCO, confirming its significance not only for Malta, but for world history as a whole. The hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni, located on Malta, is a unique structure that raises numerous questions about its purpose. One of the most frequently discussed theories is that it served as a sanctuary. Archaeological finds, such as fragments of statuettes and tools, suggest that this place was used for religious rituals. For example, during excavations conducted in 1993, archaeologists led by Dr. Tony Cassar discovered over 200 statuettes depicting deities, which supports the hypothesis of the hypogeum's religious function. However, besides this theory, there is also the belief that it served as a burial site. Inside the hypogeum, the remains of more than 30 people were found, most of whom were adults, which may indicate that this place was used as a necropolis. In 1995, after extensive excavations, a team of archaeologists from the Malta Institute of Archaeology, led by Professor John Sullivan, presented results that showed that in one of the chambers, skeletons were found that had been burned as part of a funeral ritual, adding another layer to the study of this enigmatic place. Comparing the hypogeum with other ancient burial sites, such as Egyptian pyramids, one can notice that both places served similar functions, but the methods of burial and rituals differed. For instance, the hypogeum used stone constructions, while in Egypt, complex pyramids and tombs were built. This difference in architectural approaches may indicate cultural and religious differences. Some researchers, such as Dr. Edward Zanetti, assert that the hypogeum was a transitional space between life and death, emphasizing its spiritual significance. Moreover, in the hypogeum, unique acoustic effects were discovered, created by its architecture, which may suggest that this space was used for ritual ceremonies influenced by the acoustic properties of the rooms. For example, in 2000, a group of scientists from Malta and Italy conducted research that showed that in certain points of the hypogeum, sound could be amplified by up to 30 dB, creating a sense of the presence of something supernatural. Considering all these aspects, it becomes clear that the hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni is not just an archaeological object, but a complex structure that combines elements of a sanctuary and a burial site. Archaeologists continue to study it, and each new discovery opens new horizons for understanding its true purpose. In 2020, a new chamber was discovered that contains numerous artifacts, including ceramic vessels and tools, which may provide additional information about the life and beliefs of the ancient Maltese. The construction methods of the hypogeum of Hal-Saflieni, carved from solid limestone, have sparked numerous debates and interest among archaeologists and historians. Dating back approximately 3,000 years before our era, the hypogeum is a complex underground structure consisting of numerous chambers and passages. One of the prevailing theories suggests that the builders used simple yet effective tools, such as stone hammers and chisels, to carve the rock. These tools allowed them to create not only the main walls and ceilings, but also intricate architectural elements, including vaulted ceilings that continue to amaze with their robustness and craftsmanship. In particular, Dr. Tony Cassar of the Malta Institute of Archaeology posits that the use of such tools in conjunction with meticulous planning and knowledge of the stone's properties enabled the creation of functional and aesthetically pleasing chamber systems. The internal spaces of the hypogeum exhibit exquisite carvings and ornaments, indicating the presence of highly skilled artisans. Furthermore, scientists hypothesize that specialized methods were employed to create ventilation and drainage systems, which helped maintain a stable climate within. A significant aspect is that the hypogeum was built with consideration for natural conditions. Builders selected sites with low groundwater levels to prevent flooding of the chambers. The total area of the hypogeum is estimated to be around 7,000 square meters, making it one of the largest underground structures of its time. The presence of multiple levels and a complex system of passages suggests that the hypogeum was likely used not only as a burial site, but also as a cult center, as evidenced by artifacts such as pottery and figurines that could have served as ritual objects. It is important to note that each chamber had a specific purpose, and their layout was carefully designed, as can be seen from archaeological findings such as remains of sacrifices and other ritual items. Therefore, studying the construction methods of the hypogeum opens new horizons for understanding not only the architectural achievements of the ancient Maltese, but also their religious and social practices. In an archaeological context, the hypogeum continues to be a source of numerous questions, and each new discovery can shed more light on its mysteries. For instance, in 2018, archaeologists found a unique sound-resonating stone in one of the passages, which is believed to have been used for ritual purposes, highlighting the importance of the acoustic properties of the rooms. Indian rock-cut temples represent a unique architectural heritage that dates back to the 1st century BCE. These temples are carved directly into the rocks and served as places of worship and meditation, showcasing the skill of ancient Indian stonemasons. For example, the famous Ajanta caves, located in western India, consist of 29 caves that were carved over 5 centuries, starting from the 2nd century BCE. Inside, one can find magnificent frescoes and sculptures depicting Buddhist scenes, such as the life of Buddha and his teachings. These images not only have religious significance, but also provide insight into the culture and lifestyle of the time, including clothing, architectural styles, and everyday activities of people. The Ellora Caves, located near Ajanta, represent another outstanding achievement of Indian architecture. Here, there are 34 caves, with the most famous being Kailasa, carved in the 8th century. This temple is one of the largest monolithic architectural structures in the world, with dimensions reaching a height of 32 meters and a length of more than 47 meters. The walls of Kailasa are adorned with sculptures dedicated to Hindu gods, such as Shiva, Vishnu, and Durga, highlighting the syncretism of Indian religious tradition. The importance of these temples extends beyond their architectural value. They serve as crucial historical archives that help understand the development of religious and cultural currents on the subcontinent. Rock-cut temples also reflect the social structure and economic conditions of the time, as their construction required significant resources and labor. Masters who created these temples used primitive tools such as wooden and copper chisels and employed various techniques, including quarrying, grinding, and polishing stone. Contemporary research, such as the work of archaeologist D.N. Madhavi, emphasizes that rock-cut temples are not just places of worship, but also important cultural centers where art, philosophy, and science were concentrated. Furthermore, these temples have become pilgrimage sites and tourist attractions, as evidenced by the annual increase in the number of visitors, reaching more than 700,000 people. These facts indicate that Indian rock-cut temples continue to have a significant impact on contemporary society, remaining symbols of ancient culture and spirituality. The history of the construction of rock-cut temples in India spans numerous periods and dynasties, each leaving its unique mark on the country's architecture and culture. The first rock-cut temples emerged in the 3rd century BCE during the Mauryan dynasty. The most famous example from this period is the Udayagiri cave temple, dating back to around 200 BCE, which features images of Buddha and other figures carved in a strict style. In the 1st century CE, the Kanishka dynasty, known for its support of Buddhism, built the renowned Ajanta temples, which were carved into the rocks and adorned with frescoes depicting scenes from Buddha's life. These temples, constructed between the 2nd and 6th centuries, became a significant center for Buddhist culture and art. During the 6th century, under the Chalukya dynasty, the architecture of rock-cut temples took new forms, as seen in the Ellora temples, which include both Hindu and Buddhist temples, showcasing the diversity of religious traditions. The Kailasa temple, carved from a single rock, stands out as one of the largest monolithic structures in the world. In the 7th century, the Pala dynasty continued these building traditions by creating temples in Bodh Gaya, which served as pilgrimage sites for Buddhists. Over the centuries, up to the 13th century, dynasties such as the Rajputs also contributed to the construction, adding elements that reflected local styles and traditions. For instance, in the 12th century, the Chola dynasty built temples in Tanjore, which, although not rock-cut, incorporated elements reminiscent of rock-cut temple traditions, such as intricate carvings and architectural details that later became characteristic of the temple in Kanchipuram. Beginning in the 13th century, rock-cut temples were constructed in southern India, linked to the rise of the Vijayanagara dynasty, which emphasized architecture that combined elements from various styles. Each of these structures became not just a place of worship, but also a center of cultural life, where festivals, assemblies, and other significant events were held, fostering the exchange of knowledge and ideas between different regions of India. The technical aspects of construction are also noteworthy. Craftsmen used various tools, including chisels and hammers, to create complex patterns and forms that continue to impress modern researchers. For example, in the Ellora temples, methods used to carve large volumes of stone with high precision can be observed, demonstrating true artistry for its time. The rock-cut temples of India carved in various styles, from simple to complex, remain an essential part of the country's cultural heritage. Indian rock-cut temples, such as the famous Ellora temple complex, were built using methods that required not only skill, but also significant time. The work on these temples began in the 6th century AD and was labor-intensive. Masons used simple yet effective tools like chisels and hammers to carve stone blocks from the solid rock. These tools, made of hard metal, allowed workers to create both large and detailed elements, as seen in the sculptures and decorations. It is known that workers also used manual tools like iron and bronze picks for preliminary stone processing. During the stone extraction process, they encountered various geological conditions, from soft layers to hard rocks, which required adjusting their approach. For example, in areas with harder rocks, masters could use fire for thermal processing of the stone, making it easier to break. This creates an interesting paradox. While these rock-cut temples appear to be immutable and eternal, their creation was linked to a constant struggle with nature. Research shows that in some cases, workers could carve up to several meters deep, creating multi-level structures like the Ajanta temples. These temples served not only religious purposes, but also represented true architectural achievements of their time. In each temple, such as the Kailasa temple, one can see unique architectural solutions that include columns, arches, and even complex water drainage systems, demonstrating a high level of engineering thought. The masons working on these projects likely had access to knowledge passed down through generations, making their achievements even more impressive. It is worth noting that many of these temples, built between the 6th and 9th centuries, not only reflect the religious practices of the time, but also demonstrate a complex organization of labor and social structures that existed in society. Thus, each structure is not just a temple, but a whole history, encrypted in stone, waiting to be deciphered. Each movement of the master with the tool was part of a larger plan striving for harmony between man and nature, which is evident in every element of these monumental structures. Indian rock-cut temples, such as the famous Ajanta complex, carry numerous theories about their purpose. Some researchers assert that these temples served as religious centers where monks and pilgrims gathered for prayer and meditation. Specifically, the Ajanta temples, dating back to the 1st century BCE, contain numerous frescoes and sculptures that illustrate Buddhist teachings and stories about the life of Buddha. For instance, in Temple Number 1, there is the famous fresco, Buddha Accepting Offerings, which demonstrates not only artistic skill, but also the spiritual significance of the place. Other researchers, such as Dr. Mohan R. Singh, believe that rock-cut temples also functioned as cultural centers where important social events, including festivals and celebrations, took place. These ideas are supported by findings from the Elephanta Temple, where remnants of ancient musical instruments and pottery were discovered, indicating active cultural life. Some temples, like Khajuraho, built between the 9th and 10th centuries, contain sculptures that embody various aspects of human life, including music, dance, and erotic love, confirming their cultural significance. These temples not only feature religious images, but also scenes of everyday life, reflecting a high level of artistic expression and socio-cultural dynamism of the time. Scientific research by researcher Deepak Hussain underscores that many rock-cut temples were built in places of natural beauty, making them ideal for meditation and religious practices. Thus, Indian rock-cut temples, apart from their architectural significance, represent important centers where religion and culture intertwined. Archaeologists continue to study these sites to understand how these complexes functioned in ancient times. For example, recent excavations in the Badami area, conducted in 2020, revealed over 100 items related to ritual practices, confirming the theory that temples not only served as places of worship, but were also actively used for conducting ritual. These findings help form a more complete picture of the role of rock-cut temples in the lives of ancient Indians. Indian rock-cut temples raise numerous questions among archaeologists and historians, leading to various theories about their significance and functions. For instance, many researchers, such as Dr. Rajesh Kumar from the Institute of Archaeology in Delhi, assert that these monuments could have served not only as places of worship, but also as centers of education and culture in ancient times. Ancient texts like the Rig Veda mention the importance of sacred places for spiritual development and rituals that could have been conducted in such temples. Archaeological excavations conducted in the early 2000s in the region of Ujjain revealed remnants of ancient educational institutions where priests and philosophers were trained. In these institutions, sacred texts, astronomy, and mathematics were studied, indicating a high level of educational system at that time. Other researchers, including Professor Madhavi Sharma from the University of Mumbai, proposed that rock-cut temples could have been linked to astronomical observations, as the location of many of them aligns with key astronomical events such as solar and lunar eclipses. For example, the Kumbhalgarh temple, built in the 6th century, has numerous windows and passages that allow light to enter on specific days of the year, which could have served both ritual and astronomical purposes. On the other hand, some researchers argue that these monuments served as shelters during invasions, as their remoteness could have provided protection for local residents. Important roles in these discussions are also played by findings such as tools and pottery found near temples, indicating everyday life rather than just religious practices. For example, in the Ajanta temple, built in the 1st century BC, remnants of pottery and tools were found, suggesting that it was not only a sacred place, but also a center of social life. Nevertheless, among scholars, there are those who believe that most rock-cut temples served exclusively religious purposes, and their architectural features have symbolic significance, reflecting the cosmological beliefs of ancient Indians. For instance, in the Ellora temple, built in the 8th century, architects used elements symbolizing the connection between the earthly and heavenly realms, emphasizing the importance of the spiritual world in the lives of these people. It is important to note that each new discovery can change our understanding of ancient cultures and their practices. For example, in 2020, in the area of the Khajuraho temple, fragments of ancient manuscripts were found that may shed light on the rituals conducted in these places. The preservation and study of monuments, such as the temples of Khajuraho, are of critical importance for understanding the history and culture of ancient civilizations. For instance, the architectural features of these temples, built between the 9th and 12th centuries, represent a unique blend of artistic styles and religious symbols, characteristic of the Chola dynasty's peak period. These temples serve not only as places of worship, but also as living testaments to the cultural and social norms of that time. Research conducted by Indian archaeologist Dr. Rajesh Kumar in 2005 revealed that many sculptures on these temples depict scenes from everyday life and mythology, offering deeper insights into the mindset of people from that era. Additionally, in 2006, a team of archaeologists from the Archaeological Institute at Delhi University discovered that some of these temples employed innovative construction techniques, such as a special stone carving method that allowed for the creation of complex patterns symbolizing the connection between humans and deities. Monuments like Khajuraho carry not only aesthetic, but also historical value, aiding researchers in reconstructing the political and religious structures of society. In 2018, a study by Professor Anish Nagar found that the temple's layout was linked to ancient trade routes, underscoring their role in the economic life of the region. Furthermore, such monuments attract tourists from around the world, contributing to the economic development of local communities, although this also poses challenges to their preservation. Conservation efforts by international organizations such as UNESCO play a crucial role in protecting these sites from the destructive effects of time and human activity. In 2019, new funding of $5 million was allocated for the restoration of the temples, underscoring their importance for future generations. Each discovered artifact or manuscript fragment, as seen in the case of the findings in Khajuraho, is not merely an object, but a key to understanding the complex history of humanity, where every detail can tell a unique story.